everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Happy Friday, everybody. Hopefully you guys are doing well. We're going to be doing live readings on the channel this evening. So do me a favor, if you're just tuning in, make sure you give me a thumbs up, like the stream, and if you guys want to share this out there, you can, just to get the word out that we're going to be doing live astrology readings. How's everybody doing? Happy Friday. I've got a handful of people already in the queue. We've got about 10 people, and I saw we've got Coco, and we also have Stephanie and Deanna. So thank you guys. I'll get my level 3 people up here. I'll give everybody just a couple minutes to shuffle in. If you are new to watching my live shows, welcome. We alternate every other Friday. We do either tarot or astrology. Last week I was not here, so I missed you guys, but it's okay. We're going to be doing astrology tonight. If you would like to get a reading, readings are going to be by donation. We're charging $50 minimum for donation for questions. Scan the QR code right here, and it's going to take you directly to my PayPal where you can make a donation. That's in US dollars, and I do need some information from you before we do your reading. We will be casting the chart live during the reading on the channel. You guys will see me pull it up and talk to you guys about your questions. Please, one question per participant. I appreciate it. But I'm going to need your time, date, location of birth, if you can spell out the month for me, and also make sure you include the AM or the PM. And if any of you guys make a donation for a reading and you can't catch it, yes, as always, you can come back and you can catch the stream. We're also going to be posting in the chat the link if you guys want the link. And I noticed for Maritza, I do not have your time. I do not have your time. So if you could send that, that'd be helpful. Otherwise, we got everything else that we needed from everyone else. If you guys are a level 3 subscriber who's not already here and you want to cash in on your reading for the month, you're welcome to. Just let me know. I have memberships for my channel, so if you guys aren't aware, now you know. There's 3 different levels. If you like to support my work, if you like my weekly videos, my horoscopes, my full and my new moon reports, and much more, you guys can support me by donating to my YouTube channel. There's several different tiers, whatever fits your guys' budget, but for level 3, you're going to support the channel, you get a shout out, and once a month you're going to get a reading on one of my lives, so you can always check in with me. We take level 3 subscribers first. Sometimes we get busy, so it kind of helps to be a level 3 subscriber because we take you guys at the beginning of the stream. You don't have to wait. And as always, we always post the link at least a day in advance. So if you guys want to sign up early, you can. And I appreciate your guys' patience because we are going to be taking people in the order that they made their donation. Just to do a little bit of a roll call, other than Coco and Stephanie and Deanna, this is who I have for the readings for this evening. So if you hear your name, I got you. We have got Rebecca, Carla, Paula, Lindsay, Claire, Maritza, and Katie, Melissa, and Lucas. We've got all of you guys on here. I just want to apologize in advance. We're not going to be doing a super long stream as usual. Usually we go for 2 or 3 hours. We're not going to be doing as much of a longer stream this evening. So if you guys want to get a reading, I recommend getting a reading, getting in the queue now. I'll probably leave it up for about maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then we will close that. And we won't be able to do readings until next week, but we'll be back for tarot. So unless the level 3 person pops in here late, make sure you guys get in sooner rather than later. We'll put like 10, 15 minutes on the clock, and then we'll close the queue. So let me go ahead and pull up the first couple charts that we have. I saw that Stephanie and Coco swooped in there early. Deanna did too. It's nice to see you guys. Hopefully you're doing well. So let's take a look here. So I know we've got Coco. I've got you up here, Coco, and I apologize. For some reason, maybe it's because we have something pinned. I can't quite see your question, but I think you're asking something about manifesting a vehicle. There it is. Okay. I'd like to get my monthly membership. Wondering if I can manifest a new car purchased by someone else of the Daddy Warbooks variety. Mine was stolen last summer. I'm just looking for when the stars will give me a break. So I've got you here, Coco, as a Pisces rising, Sun in Sag, and Moon in Capricorn. Cool. And then I'll grab you, Steph and Deanna. You guys are next. All right, so you are that Pisces rising. Vehicles for you, interesting one, because you've had Mars going retrograde really since the fall of 2022, and that's been taking place in your third house. So third house is about transportation, vehicles, getting around town. Mars happens to be literally things that have speed, that move forward. And it's the ruler of your 8th house of joint resources, loans, other people's money. So to me, it looks like there's been this back and forth that's like, okay, how do I get a vehicle? How do I afford it? What do I pay for? What can I afford? Who may potentially sell a car to me? So on and so forth. So just the fact that Mars is now direct is already a positive sign that whatever you've been thinking about, likely you've decided what direction you're going to be going in. I would like to see a positive aspect involving transit or natal Mercury as well. So the problem is the last few months we've seen Mars retrograde. It's been in opposition to your natal Mercury in Sagittarius. So there's been a lot of like feeling like you're being pulled into different directions and not sure where to look or if you should buy. All of that's been squaring Neptune, so there's a lot of like going back and forth. There can also be clarity issues in regards to negotiating a deal. There can be clarity issues in regards to whether or not there's problems with a vehicle, okay? So I just want to really reiterate, even though Neptune's moving out of the square, that's something that you want to be mindful of. Looking at ads that are placed for vehicles, you know, that you might show up and they look very different, or you're noticing things that kind of vary from the ad. Double and triple check like VIN numbers and things like that once you start looking at cars, and make sure that they're thoroughly inspected and that you're not overlooking anything, okay? But the fact that we've got Jupiter in Aries, Jupiter is your chart lord, Jupiter and Neptune. Jupiter's moving through Aries, it's picking up steam, it's going to be ingressing into Taurus in the spring, and it's coming into a trine with your natal Mercury. So that's a really positive transit for opening things up, optimizing the likelihood of you being able to buy something, because Aries is your whole sign second house. So kind of looking at some of these transits, I'm liking when Mercury comes into a trine with your natal Mercury and it's in conjunction to Jupiter. So that's going to be right around the end of March, March 29th-ish. You could even wait maybe until like the moon goes into Leo and you'll have a fire trine. So even as late as March 31st. Another time where you could do something could be when Jupiter is in a trine with the sun also to your natal Mercury. So that's going to be happening around 21, 22 degrees around April 11th. Now here's the issue that I have with this. That's right when Mercury is getting ready to go retrograde, okay? So that may be a time where you really want to assess, what can I afford? Am I getting a good deal? Is this going to be a good move? And if you're not sure, still right around mid-April, I would recommend waiting. Because there will be other times where you're going to have opportunities later in the summer to pick up a vehicle as well. Possessions is going to be more second house, okay? So when we see, you know, Jupiter come into the second house later this year, I think you're going to feel a little bit more comfortable with your finances. From a Placidus perspective, Jupiter in the second is I possess more resources. But for whole sign, Taurus is actually going to be vehicles. So I feel like you're going to feel like you have more to spend, basically when you get into Jupiter in your second house. Another time period you can do would be when you are post-eclipse. That'll be a time to watch. We're going to have this eclipse here on May the 5th. So this is going to be a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. It is going to be in your 8th house of other people's resources. I feel like you may know more about your finances around this time. It is going to be very close to your natal Mars. So this might be a time when you're assessing, okay, can I get a loan? You know, what am I going to pay in terms of percentages? You know, what is my payment going to be? Stuff like that. So I would wait, like I said, not only because of the Mercury retrograde, but I would wait until after this eclipse, because you may actually get a better deal, or you may actually find that there's more resources that come from this particular eclipse. This is also going to be a very financial eclipse just generally, okay? So just keep in mind there may be changing interest rates and other things going on in the world. So that can be a time to watch. And then the other time that I'm thinking of is maybe when we get Mercury direct, it's in your second house. as is Jupiter. And it's coming into a trine with your Venus. That can be another nice time, and that's going to be right around early June. If you don't make any purchases around these times that I'm mentioning, I would pay attention because there is going to be a Venus retrograde that will be in your 6th house. And that retrograde is going to be kind of wild. It is going to be about your schedule, and it can be about maintenance. It can be about whether or not you're working, whether or not you're taking on more work, so on and so forth. For the most part, I actually really like July and August for this chart because that retrograde is going to trine your Mercury, which rules vehicles. It's also going to be making squares to Jupiter, Uranus. So whether this is you picking up a car earlier in the year and you're like hustling and going, okay, I'm trying to get that paid off, or I'm trying to save money to be able to pick something up. Venus retrogrades, oftentimes, if we make a big investment during a Venus retrograde period, so this will be the end of July through the beginning of September, we may buy a car in the color that we thought we liked, but we don't like it. We may paint the walls that color, or put, furniture out that we thought we like, and then we realize when the retrograde's over, we don't like it. So the positive of this is like, I could see you potentially bringing in more work or having some side hustles that could help you pay for a car. You may also find somebody who's like, look, it needs a paint job, or it needs to have something fixed, and I don't want to deal with it, so I'm willing to kind of sell it, and you make it a better deal. So you may see that, but still, once again, make sure you really like it, because some of these movements through your 6th house does indicate it may need some kind of service. It is going to make squares to your 2nd house, and you have to ask yourself if you're willing to kind of put in the money for that. All in all, you can wait, right? If none of these time frames are ideal for you, you could wait until you see into next year, Jupiter moving into your 3rd house. If you needed to wait that long, I think another time period that I would watch for is going to be later this year when you have a Mercury retrograde going on. It's going to start in Capricorn, and it's going to retrograde back into Sagittarius. So it's going to start right around mid-December. It will retrograde back into Sag, and it's going to come into conjunction with Mars. So it makes me feel like if you do not make a purchase during the aforementioned dates, this might be a time where you're like, okay, now I'm going out there and I'm looking, I want to make a purchase. This makes me feel like you may find a vehicle that you have to bring in from another place. And although that sounds like a hassle, maybe you go to like a car lot, or maybe you see somebody who posts a vehicle for sale and it's, in another city, and you have to physically drive there, or you have to have the car purchased and delivered. You may be willing to do that because it looks like you might get a pretty good deal, especially with some of the trines that are making its way to the North Node in Aries. So if you're in a position where you don't necessarily feel like you must have one, I would say really the transits get better the later in the year that we get, especially because I feel like you're going to have more financial means and you're not going to feel like you have to make sacrifices in order to have a vehicle, especially if work really ends up being as productive as I think it's going to be over the summertime. If this were me, I would rather maybe look at trying to extend it at least till the summer. And then if you don't find what you like, know that you may get a really good deal. Just be looking at where people are possibly selling in other areas. And if you're willing to venture out a little bit, especially right around the new year, it's not just because it's the holidays, although I think it is, you are probably going to get a better deal December, January buying a car because less people are going to be buying some of those big ticket purchases. But the retrograde that is going to be in much more harmony with some of the other placements in your chart seems to indicate that it may be something that's going to stick, right? So hopefully that answers your question. Interesting stuff still going on in your horoscope right now with your Mars and your Pluto in the 8th house. Certainly the topic of other people's resources, whether it's people who loan you money, joint resources with others, what your employer pays you, so on and so forth. The 8th house is other people's resources. So as Uranus is making oppositions, like there is lots of wild changes going on with your financial situation. And it may be that, you're having to be more financially responsible for yourself. You don't have the support of others. It may be that out of the blue, unexpectedly, lines of financial support or insurance or other things kind of dwindle. That's the shocking opposition in your 2nd house. The truth is that until the North Node is out of Taurus, there is this sense of having to pay for it yourself, building yourself, doing more on your own. But I think that you're going to see that it's very valuable, especially as Jupiter in this next year comes into Taurus and starts to oppose that. You're going to be like, oh, I can just, dramatically make more money. And it may mean that you're doing it in 8th house ways where, somebody basically says to you, I want a service, and you say, okay, I'm going to upcharge you, or I'll loan you money, but it's going to be with interest. You're going to find that there is ways to make money and resources from others. I also wonder if you may contemplate buying a car, keeping it for a period of time, and then reselling it, and you may actually sell it for more. So that might be something else that you can consider doing. If you absolutely need to get around and you want to get something that's going to be affordable, but you don't have to keep forever, that might be something to kind of play with later in November and December. Okay, hopefully that's helpful. What's up, everybody? I see everybody. I got you, Mystic Road. I will add you. Can you please send me and remind me your birth information? And just as a reminder for everybody who's watching, what's up, Wendy? We're not going to be doing the stream for very long, so if you guys want to get in, I recommend doing it now. And I'm not sure if it'll do it automatically in US dollars. I think you can change or choose your particular currency. I don't know. I've never had to do that. Good luck, Coco. I hope that's helpful. Send us all a picture of your new ride. And I've got Deanna, and I've also got Stephanie. You guys are next, and then Mystic Road. What's up, Maria? Thank you guys for your patience. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at... Here we go. So we got Stephanie and then Deanna. Okay, so that was the July 3rd, yeah, 93. Stephanie says, hello, I would like my March reading. Give me whatever you see important transits are coming. You got it, babe. Well, for starters, how are you doing with that Pluto ingress? Even though it's going to be very brief, you're still going to see Pluto go back and forth in and out of like 27, 28, 29 degrees of Capricorn over the next year or so. Yes, it's going to keep squaring your ascendant and your descendant, but the fact that it's changed degrees and it's moved into Aquarius should have a very different feel in regards to your 4th house. So over the next couple of months, really, like, let's say focus on mid-April when there is an eclipse that's going to be taking place in Aries. And I've been looking at this in your chart for quite a while. That 29-degree solar eclipse that you're going to have, it's going to sit on your descendant. So when an eclipse sits at an angle, it's pretty prominent. It represents others. 29 degrees might feel like a pressure point or a crisis point, or where you have to act very quickly. It's planting a new seed. So it can be about relationships, but that eclipse is going to square Pluto for everyone by about a degree. And in your case, it's in opposition to your ascendant, square Mercury. So like, do yourself a favor, go and look at the week of like the 17th through the 22nd, okay? I just want you to keep that schedule light that week because it's going to just ricochet all over your astrology. The big thing, being a Libra rising, the fact that it's going to square Mercury on your midheaven, I think is good because it's pushing you to get outside of your comfort zone, get out there, communicate, talk, especially when it comes to your business stuff. But it may bring up some anxiety because Mercury is traditionally associated with your 12th house, okay? So there can be a sense of getting a little squirrely. That eclipse, you're going to feel it. I mean, we're already feeling the eclipses now, but you're going to feel it about a week or so before, and probably this is an eclipse that will play out for sure over time. When Jupiter hits 29 degrees in May, when the North Node hits 29 degrees in July, when Pluto goes back to 29 degrees, it's just going to light your chart up like a Christmas tree. The good thing is at least you've got a sextile to Saturn. So this is getting you ready for relationships. This is getting you ready for more clients. This is getting you ready also to get outside of your comfort zone in regards to your home base. And for all my Libra risings, I mean, everybody's going to have this. It's not limited to just Libra risings, but if you're a Libra rising listening, you're going to see the eclipse come in and then it's going to square Pluto. That's going to be somewhere on your 4th house or on your 5th house cusp. So it wants to create a huge transformation in regards to your home life, right? So there can be something that comes up with a parent. There can be something that comes up with a landlord, an apartment where you're living, a family member. So just be aware, just be mindful that that's going to create some pressure every single time we see 29 degrees come up in the cardinal signs. By the time you get to like July and August, things kind of calm down. But usually when you see eclipses in the 7th house, it's bringing people in that are going to push you out of your private life, or they're going to say, hey, you know, I want to help you, you know, enter into a relationship. Okay, so you want to buy a house. My advice is, because by Placidus standards, you're still going to have Saturn in and out of your 4th house all year. It's going to go all the way to 7 degrees of Pisces and retrograde back. So, you know, really until Saturn leaves your 4th house Placidus wise, you don't have to buy a home this year. You can if that's what you want to do. I would advise you to be very careful, given just the state of what's going on in the world right now. And also knowing that you're a Libra rising, you're going to see a Mercury retrograde in your 8th house, and it's going to be about your finances and your spending. I would also recommend after this eclipse, if you need counselors, therapists, people to help you look for homes, if you're looking for a real estate agent, if you want to issue new services, if you want to take on new business partnerships, all that stuff, that's stuff that you want to do after the eclipse. So just hold tight for some of that stuff, and then you'll see that kind of come through. But I'm really focusing on these eclipses coming into square Pluto in your chart because it's going to bring so much action to angular houses, and it's also all going to square Mercury. Listen to your intuition. That's the other piece of advice that I would give you. That's really going to help you. So you might notice that there's going to be really strong dreams. Maybe, you know, you feel like you need to get readings, talk to a counselor, things like that more often, right? So just keep that in the back of your mind. But I feel like for some reason, this is really pushing you to go, okay, I need to really step into a public, you know, kind of position. 7th house and 10th house are about how people perceive you and what you're doing out in the world. So this is a really good omen that there's like new services or new opportunities that you're going to have to sell something or offer something in the marketplace that may really help improve some of your financial situation. So if you are looking at buying a house, if you are looking at trying to drum up more money, you'll see that happen naturally really over the next year or so, especially as Jupiter goes deeper into Taurus closer to next year. That sweet spot is going to be when, you know, Jupiter and Uranus are dancing with your natal Venus. I'm not telling you to wait on it or depend on it, but I'm pretty confident that part of what's going to happen here with the conjunctions that are going to happen in the spring of 2024, when Jupiter and Uranus are on top of your natal Venus, what you're going to see is like there's going to be more high paying clients. You may also find that you're in a relationship with somebody who's very financially solid. You may have people that are offering to help expand your business and investing in what you're doing. So there's something like that that's kind of brewing next year. So this may be the time, right? You're now getting ready to turn 30. So when you turn 30 this summer, you're going to be in a 7th house year. So the eclipses that you have in the 7th house, also Mars is going to be your time lord. So you really want to watch some of these Mars transits. I have a feeling that it's going to materialize in the fall. It's like a lot of back and forth that you're doing with another person. Okay. Lash business and adding permanent makeup. That's wonderful. Just think about where you're going to be about a year from now, because a year from now, it looks like things could really be booming with this chart. The only challenge is going to be, how am I expanding and doing work outside of my home? So whether you're saying, okay, I'm only going to do appointments where I travel, or I'm going to find a space to work from, part of the squares that you'll experience is feeling like you don't have to do work in a cramped space, because I am seeing Venus square Saturn. So there's a sense of needing more space to be able to do your work. Okay. I love that. You met somebody at the gym. Yeah, I mean, your love life is going to pick up quite a bit here. Well, you'll see from about April all the way through July, it's going to be pretty active with these transits. So let me know. Let me know how that goes. I'm excited to see what happens for you. Okay, what's up, Z Energy? Hey, Jessica, I added you to my list. Thank you, Coco. Let's take a look. Cool, I've got you, Deanna. What's up, Ty? 5 more minutes and I'm going to close the reading. So if you guys want to get in there, you can. Yes, I will read the list. We've got Rebecca, Clara, Paula, Lindsay, Claire, Maritza, Katie, Melissa, Lucas, Stacy and Urban, Amy, Lindy, Elizabeth. That's who I've got. So if I called your name, I got you. Let's see who else do we have here. So we've got now Deanna. All right, Deanna, let's see what's going on. I saw you pop in here. I've signed up for yoga teacher training. Starts the end of July. That's awesome. Question, is a good time to talk to Honey about a deeper level of commitment when I'm in Ireland? 3:30 to 4:10. Ooh, let's look. Okay. So in regards to relationships, Saturn's still hanging out in your 7th house. So that's still going to bring up the theme of commitments in relationships. You said you're going to be there 3:30 through 4:10. So Venus conjuncts Uranus. Maybe something like, well, I mean, Venus and Uranus in conjunction. I mean, you've got your 7th house and your 10th house Lord coming into conjunction the day that you get there. So that may come up naturally by discussion right around the 30th, the 31st, even if you're not looking to discuss that. Maybe when we see Mercury coming closer into contact with Uranus, but you're going to be gone by that time. So we could do something like when Mercury is conjunct the North Node, coming in for a trine with your Venus. Where's the moon going to be that day? So I'm not wild about the moon there. Maybe the moon conjunct Pluto. Let's see. It's going to sextile Neptune, trine. You know, here's the thing. Over the beginning of April, like Mercury going into Taurus is going to be about talking about more traditional themes, anything in regards to commitment, feeling solid, and investments that we're making with our feelings, with our finances. So you may notice that there is just this conversation that you're supposed to be having right around, you know, the first week of April naturally. At least with Mercury conjunct the North Node, it's sextiling Mars, it's making trines to your Venus. I would say maybe doing that before the moon goes into Scorpio. So doing that like around the 5th, maybe a better time. And you're also going to see a sextile to Saturn. So I would say sometime around the 5th or the 6th seems to be like a better time for you, right? The other thing is that Saturn is still going to retrograde, right? So that tells me that once Saturn starts going retrograde here in a couple of months, it's going to be a time to reevaluate, okay, you know, how are things going with the relationship? You may see right around Venus trine Saturn that that's coming up for you. And that's going to be around mid-May. Then again, there is going to be this Venus retrograde that's going to be happening in your 12th house. And I think that that's going to be about returning maybe to a foreign place or a foreigner coming to spend time with you, kind of figuring out what direction you're going in. It's going to be very personal for you because it's going to be retrograde in your ascendant sign and it's going to be in a square to Uranus. So it's going to be this feeling of, I want to identify in a different way. I want the drama. I want the romance, right? Venus and Leo. And you're going to feel like you don't want to be separate. I feel like there's no harm in talking about this, right? So like bringing it up and being like, hey, what if we did talk about eloping or doing something later in the summer? If you don't do that, that's fine. Like, you know, the rules, you know, mid-July through about early September, not an ideal time to be getting married because of that Venus retrograde. And Venus is also stopping shy of your natal Saturn. So I do feel like there's a need to talk about some of this stuff. Just know, once we have the Venus retrograde wrapping up, we're going to have a Mercury retrograde going on and planets are going to start opposing Saturn. So it does seem more challenging for the two of you guys to kind of come together because of the opposition to Saturn. So if you're not doing it prior to August, it's okay. Just wait. wait for the right, astrology for you guys to be able to do this. It may mean that you do something different during the Venus retrograde where you're like, okay, we're going to have some kind of like secret or private elopement or ceremony, and then we'll do something bigger later down the road, right? So there may be something like that that comes up. I would just really avoid having these conversations the end of August, beginning of September. But if you want to do it while you're there, 5th, 6th of April, I think it's perfect timing. Especially it's going to be in a trine to your Venus, right? So, having Mercury go through the 9th house, hey, can we talk about marriage? Can we talk about documents, where we're living, where we're traveling to? And it's trining Venus in Capricorn. So it's going to feel very logical, practical, timing, planning. It's very physical. So there can be a sense of being like, well, we need to discuss this and talk about the timing. That's the Venus and Capricorn side of it. But also, what would we do? Where would we do it? When would we do it? So it's about talking about it in a way that's like exciting and starting to kind of make those plans. Okay. Have fun on your trip. That's really exciting. I hope you have a good time. It's such a good time to be going with Jupiter in your 9th and these eclipses in your 9th house. It's going to feel so good to like be traveling. I know you've been doing a bit of back and forth already for a while, but I think that that's going to be a really exciting time with the eclipse. And the eclipse in itself in the 9th house could very well be an indication that there's, some kind of marriage that's coming. It's just a matter of getting that reactivated, Have a good time. That's going to be so much fun with the trines to your ascendant. All my Leo risings are traveling. Readings are now closed. Hey, Tiara, I got you. I'll add you to my list. All right, so we've got Mystic Road. Let me see if I can pull you up here. Let's see if I have, thank you, appreciate it. I'm pretty sure I have you saved in here somewhere. There we go. All right, so let's see. That's a good question. Probably like within the next month or two, we'll have Astro 201 out. Oh, okay, never mind, even sooner. All right, so let me see where your question was. Did I lose you? Did you have a particular question? I just saw Christine's in here too. Hi, Christine. All the members are in here. What's up, guys? What energy do I need to focus on this month? Are there any key things to pay attention to? Virgo rising, Sun in Aries, and your moon is in Sag. Well, there's a number of things. Do you ever look at your chart? I mean, I know you're asking me a question, but the fact that Neptune just hit 25 degrees and now it's actually in an opposition with your natal Uranus to me seems important, especially considering the fact that Mars has been kind of dinging that up a lot this last, week or so. Mars retrograde in the 10th, squaring Uranus, squaring Neptune makes me feel like there can be things coming up for you in regards to what am I supposed to be working on? What am I supposed to be doing out in the world? What is my drive? What direction am I going in? And also how it impacts you financially, but also in terms of like your security with other people. It can feel like there's some friction going on with people out in the world. So whether that's at work or in terms of like dealing with clients, bosses, like just going out and about, there's a lot of like, what is wrong with people? And you can just feel really agitated. Now Mars is leaving that, square. Neptune will move forward a couple degrees. It'll retrograde back. I would encourage you to look into transit Neptune opposed Uranus. What really stands out for me is the fact that you have this opposition in your 2nd and also in your 7th house. So that tells me you need to be really careful with who you're investing your time or your energy or your resources in. Because it can have an impact on you. Believe it or not, with Saturn still in your 6th house right now, there can be a sense of you literally absorbing energies from other people that can have a negative impact on your resources, your money, your digestion, your health, just your energy in general. So please just look into that transit. What else is going on? Well, you've got eclipses that are going to start up in Aries. So that's really important because, you know, the next month or so is going to be quite active with a chart like this. You're getting ready to come into your nodal return, even though that's not going to be happening still until closer to the new year. An eclipse near your sun on your birthday is definitely something that I would look at because it seems to suggest there's getting ready to be a huge transformation in regards to the year ahead. It'll be a solar eclipse within about 4 degrees of your sun. A solar eclipse in the 9th house might be changing the direction of your beliefs, your philosophy. There can be changes involving education, travel. You're going to hear for a Virgo rising, it's in your 8th house of transformation, but it's technically Placidus in your 9th. So you might be thinking about investing more money in education, investing in travel, changing your philosophy. Go back, look at what happened 19 years ago, the last time the North Node went through this part of your skies, because likely it was a lot of really asking yourself to like go out and experience life on your own, like venture to places you've never been, be inquisitive, travel, and keep an open mind in terms of like what the trajectory of your life is supposed to be. The 9th house is very adventurous. So for you to have a stellium of planets moving through your 9th house and also your North Node there makes me feel like you're going to do very well with this energy. Even before the eclipses really start kicking in, Jupiter is going to be there. So I'm wondering if you're going to go through a period of, oh, I want to do some training or I want to do some teaching myself. The 9th house is also sometimes about publishing. So it can be about publishing stories, sharing stories, telling stories, but something that's very personal to you. Okay, so keep that in the back of your mind. And I like that Jupiter is going to be moving through your 9th house, and it's going to be touching on, you know, all of these planets. Actually, the eclipse itself is going to be on the cusp of your 8th. So the cusp of your 9th. It'll be in your 8th house. Taxes, joint resources, inheritance, insurance things. These might be things that you want to pay attention to over like the next month or so. Already living in my RV, trying to decide what's next. Adventure is good. Cool. I like it. And I have a feeling it's going to be maybe about planning like the next big trip. So if you're in one location and you're hoping to get to from point A to point B, you might start kind of talking about where are all these other places I can stay along the way or visit. And what am I learning about that in the process? But yeah, coming into your North Node return makes me feel like a lot of this is going to be about how you are either bringing in resources or funding to continue the travels, right? And so the 8th house is kind of interesting. Like this can literally be about collecting travel points on a credit card. It can be about, you know, getting things back, getting refunds. That's going to help kind of launch you deeper into the 9th house. So I'm wondering where you're going to go next, because wherever it is, it looks like it's going to be an adventure. On the other side of some of these transits, something else I would mention that's coming up also is, you know, Saturn is in Pisces, so it's going to be moving through your whole sign 7th, but it actually enters into your 7th house closer to the end of May, going into June. And actually it will retrograde at 7 degrees. So 7 in general it is a Libra degree. So it deals with relationships. Having Saturn retrograde over your descendant might be a time where you're reevaluating, do I want a relationship? Is it too challenging? Do I want to put myself out there? Am I looking for love? And if you're not, then you may meet somebody or come into contact with somebody who is interested in you because it rules your 5th house. But equally, it's going to square your moon. So I think there's a lot of like, I need freedom. I kind of want to be on the move. I don't really know if that's what I'm looking for. How does a relationship factor into what I'm doing? And I think you're going to kind of go back and forth with this through the Saturn transit. And in the back of my mind, this transit's also really positive because it's going to be coming into a sextile with your Mars. So you may meet somebody who's like, yeah, I also like to travel. I like to do the same things. I'm interested in all of that stuff. And you may find that there's some flexibility when it comes to like relationships and spending time with other people. If it's not a relationship, then it can be about your relationship with somebody who is younger, because Saturn rules your 5th house. So whether it's children or just like younger friends, trying to find ways to be able to connect and meet with them and make more time for them as well. Eclipses coming in. Actually, you've got an eclipse that's going to be coming in in Aries. We talked about that one near your sun, and then also Scorpio. So that one's going to be right between your Juno and your Neptune. Watch with that eclipse because it is going to be making some oppositions to Uranus, to sudden unexpected travel, or you may find that you're really drawn to, once again, studying and learning something new. So it looks like education and travel is like the big things that are being highlighted in your life right now. Anything else? And yeah, Pluto's, Pluto changing signs. It's going into Aquarius, but it's technically still in your 5th house. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Really watch what happens when Saturn retrogrades, because usually when it retrogrades on an angle, there's a big turning point or a big shift that happens with that house. So for you, I'm wondering, is it going to be relationship oriented? And enjoy all those Jupiter transits, my goodness. All right, so if you guys got in before the cutoff, let's see, who did I get towards the end? Elizabeth, Tiffany, and Lisa. You guys were all the ones that were tacked on to the end. Let's see, who else do we have? Jessica Martinez. What's up, Jessica? Do you have a particular question for me? Let's see. November 28th, 85, right? What's up, girl? How's it going? Trying to get a loan for a mortgage as Pluto's going into your 8th house. Okay. Here's the thing that I will tell you. The fact that Pluto is kind of tinkering on your 8th house, and you're going to see that there is about to be Pluto square the nodes. Be very careful with getting a mortgage there. Because the cusp is 1 degree. So are you going to be the sole person who's responsible for the mortgage, or are you going in on it with a friend? Because you've got 1 of Aquarius there. So that makes me feel like it's going to fall on you, even if you're trying to do this with another person. That also makes me feel like there's about to be a huge change in regards to joint resources, insurance, inheritance, money coming from another person. That may radically change the game. Joint resources, or, banking, loans, mortgages. Oops. Sorry, guys. There we go. I lost it. Sorry. That's going to be more so the 8th house, the inheritance part. Okay. So I look at this and I'm kind of like, especially knowing what's coming at the end of May. Let me show you. Because at the end of May, Mars is going to oppose Pluto, and then it's going to square the nodes. So if you can wait, I would recommend waiting. I feel like I should lease for another year and wait. Yeah, I mean, you can, but specifically the transits that are happening around the 3rd week of May make me feel a little uneasy about taking out a loan or a mortgage, because you're going to have a fixed square involving Pluto in your financial houses. I also look at this and go, are you feeling like you have to do it because you have to move money for tax reasons? Because to me, this looks like if you do end up inheriting, or if you get some money, you're like, I have to do something with it. So there may be this like urgency of feeling like, oh, I have to buy something, right? So you may be at that turning point, basically the 3rd week of May. Actually purchasing a home, I actually feel like that's probably going to be something that's happening closer to the eclipses that you're going to have in your 4th house. So there's going to be a solar eclipse in Libra right on your Mars. And that's about you taking action and being like, okay, I want to get the show on the road with making a move or having a home. Personally, the timing is better then, even if you do lease right now, like let's say you lease for 6 months or another year, you could still purchase something here. And I think you're going to get a better deal because it's going to be making trines to your Jupiter Yeah, it's going to square Pluto, so it makes me feel like even if you do make a purchase, you're going to need the assistance and help of somebody else to, actually get this home. So it might be about, going back and forth with a realtor. It might be about going back and forth with somebody who's actually selling the house. So right around mid-October of 2023 is like a better time. And you may make the purchase, but you may not actually like move in right away, right? But I can see with like a Mercury retrograde just prior to this in September, you're going to be looking at homes. So yeah, September, October seems like a better time. It's naturally also going to be, making some trines to your natal Jupiter. I'm also liking Saturn in a trine to your moon. So Saturn trine your moon is going to kind of help you find your space. It just makes me feel like it might be in a different area. So I don't know exactly where you're living right now, but Saturn moving through the 9th house trine your moon makes me feel like you're going to be in a different area come the beginning of next year, right? Different neighborhood, maybe. Far away moves is generally what I see with stuff in the 9th house. Another time is going to be when there's a full moon eclipse, and that's going to be in the spring next year. And you'll see that come in, let's see, here, right around March 25th. It's been a hoot in my world. I can imagine with Pluto going into your 8th house, there's lots of change there. But finally, you're out of like the Saturn-Uranus squares that have been impacting your Venus. Like that's actually kind of clearing out. I think the other thing is last year you've had Jupiter going in and out of Aries. So it's been like work pressures, not really allowing you to be totally available, whether it's for relationships or even for yourself. It's been a really complex square because everything in your 10th house is like work, 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 show up, show up, show up. And it's been kind of bypassing private and also personal time. So now that Jupiter is moving away, I think you're going to see that kind of calm down a little bit. And with Saturn in your 9th trine Pluto, I feel like there's going to be more opportunities for you to travel, have pleasure time, enjoy yourself, hang out with your kid, and focus maybe on if you want to do like more retreat work. I definitely think that that's going to be something that's much more possible. Yeah. Having Saturn in a trine to your moon and Pluto all year is going to have you really committed to like, what is the purpose of life? What is the bigger picture? Where am I going? So try to keep that in the back of your mind. What privacy? And you know what? There's always something coming. You're in your first Saturn square since your Saturn return. So all year you're going to have Saturn square Saturn, Mercury, and the Sun. So my advice is keep praying, keep focusing on your spiritual routine. With Saturn in the 9th house, you have to make time for travel and welcome new teachers into your life, where you may do some teaching or facilitating yourself. Okay? Good luck. Thank you, Marcia. I appreciate it. Thanks, Jessica. You're always so generous. I appreciate it. What's up, Kristen? She says, what is the purpose of life? She's on baby watch. Where is that baby? Where is that baby? Okay, so we have Tiara. Am I saying that correctly? Tiara, or is it Tiara? Let me pull your info. Let me see if I have you in here. I might have you in here. There she is. There we go. Maria. Okay. Taria. Oh my gosh, eclipse baby. All right, Taria, what is your question, my dear? Trying to see if you sent it, but I'm not seeing it. Oh, there it is. Can you tell me about the way my alien constructs are functioning in my chart right now and how I can best work with that energy? I watched that episode of The Midheaven a few weeks ago. I'm really curious. I've noticed both Pluto and Neptune activator constructs, with the Neptune also being a shadow construct. Good question. Okay, so in terms of transits, Sidebar, I got a reading with Stephanie. It took a year, but she was really, 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 really good. Really, really good. Okay, let me pull your question up again so I can take a look at this as I look at your chart. Okay, how your alien constructs are functioning right now. So let's look at Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, Saturn. So the Saturn trine Pluto, I mean, you and Jessica have that kind of going down at the same time. I think what's really interesting is that this may open up things in regards to feeling like you want to either learn more or share more with other people. When you have two outer planets that are going to be in a trine, it's really going to help you tap into that natal Pluto trine the ascendant. Maybe living in a much more heart-centered space, feeling more creative, wanting to share that with others, wanting to include other people in your hobbies, your belief systems, what you're creating, stuff like that, because you're going to have that water trine. Saturn is not quite squaring Uranus. We have got Neptune that's getting closer and closer and closer to your sun. You're going to start feeling that when it's within about maybe 10, 12 degrees. So it's getting there. Neptune trine Saturn is also a really cool transit. I mean, that's a time when you're going to feel like everything is kind of like opening up. Neptune can be about visions, dreams, intuition. It can also be about noises and sounds. I know that sounds really weird. But I wonder with like Neptune going through the 10th house trine Saturn, if you're feeling like you want to do more with frequency, sound, art, healing, like that kind of stuff might come in for you. Especially anything that is going to be helping you feel open and inspired, right? There can be a lot of beneficial things that can come from Saturn laying that foundation in the 5th house of what makes me feel the most creative? What am I passionate about? What do I love? And using that as the forward momentum, like that inspiration to kind of pave the way for some of the North Node, Jupiter transits that are getting ready to go through your 10th. You're going to feel like the only thing that you can do is work that is going to be inspiring, right? I'm an artist planned, okay, plus trained and training a lot of metaphysical healing. I would encourage you to be looking at doing stuff that's going to be like sound related, okay? Because Neptune is going to be about sounds, or Neptune is going to be about lighting. You may also feel inclined with Saturn at a 27 to start looking at like regressions. So that could be something else that can be coming up for you. Especially like as Neptune gets closer and closer to your sun, I have a hunch that that may be something that you consider integrating into your practice. So whether it's hypnotherapy, if it's past life regression, if it's working with the Akashic records, all of these things I think are going to be things that are really going to interest you, and you can get a head start on it sooner rather than later if you want, because right around the time Neptune's coming into contact with those planets, you're also going to have Pluto conjunct your Jupiter. So you're going to be willing to do things that are going to be more weird and kind of strange or futuristic or abstract. I think the one challenging thing is you're coming into Pluto square Pluto, right? So as you start seeing that happening in your 8th house to the 5th, you're going to realize that you're not going to be totally creatively fulfilled unless you're feeling like you're constantly having this regenerative thing that's going on with your hobbies or your love life or like creative stuff. Pluto in Aquarius is your friend. As an Aries, you know that the sextiles are going to be all about your dreams and your friends and anything in regards to your networks. I think it just means that you're going to be investing more time in making changes with some of the people who you're connecting with, and really helping you open up and develop some of like your sixth sense, your spidey senses. Uranus is also still dancing on your North Node, my dear. So until it leaves about 18 or 19 degrees, it's going to hover there all year. It's going to be really opening up your 11th house. So that's going to be who you're spending time with, who you're connecting with. The North Node in Taurus is going to be like herbalists, artists, creatives, people who cook, people who work with crystals. Uranus on the North Node, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to give you the freedom to basically like fly your freak flag. Right? Especially knowing that Jupiter is going to transit there over the next year or two. Like, it can't be all work and no play. There needs to be a sense of doing some professional networking and connecting with other people to really expand your social circles, but also You're here to do North Node in the 11th work, bringing groups of people together, working with groups of people in a communal way. Diversify some of your friend groups right now is what I would recommend. It'll be smart for you to do this now before Uranus starts coming into an opposition with Saturn. Yeah, that's your goal because that's your North Node. Watch what happens when Jupiter hits your Mars, okay? Because Jupiter is going to come into contact with your Mars later this year. I feel like it might be that you start referring to people or people are referring to you. So maybe get out there and like meet some herbalists or some other people that if you're doing healing work, you can refer back and forth to. So you're creating your own network. So it's not just about friendships, right? Jupiter is the ruler of your 10th house, traditionally Pisces. So it's going to also be about career. And the more that you're getting situated within these groups of other people who are doing similar work, you guys are all supporting and sending clients back and forth to one another, right? But there'll be some friendships there too. And at worst case scenario, Jupiter in your 11th house, you're going to go to some great parties, some gatherings, some get-togethers, people who want to go and have family dinners with friends, people who want to, you know, go like rock and crystal hunting. When Jupiter hits Mars, you might see some people who are doing that, or they're doing like some like foraging. They might do some like wild foraging for herbs and for food as well. Okay. Lots of outer planet stuff going on at the same time. I'll be networking more since I just joined the board of a new theater. I love that. That's really great. That's actually really cool with Jupiter trine Uranus. I think that that's about meeting other types of unusual people who are a little bit more free. Look into Saturn in opposition to your moon, okay? Because, you know, the moon rules your chart. So Saturn is going to be about connecting with people at afar, people who are culturally diverse and different. And it may feel a little bit hard communicating and connecting with people with that opposition. And you might find that you're just having to go to other parts of town. You're having to kind of get outside of your usual kind of neighborhood and go to other places, okay? Hopefully that's helpful for you. But my goodness, those Aries planets getting hit with Jupiter in the eclipses. It's such a big time for your career right now. I hope it's as successful as it looks. All right, so we saw all of my level 3 people. Thank you guys. I appreciate it for supporting the channel. We will get into my donations. Okay. Really cool. So many stelliums of Aries. Everybody's like gearing up. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started first with Rebecca, and then we have Carla and Paula. You guys are on deck. So I have Rebecca, Carla, Paula, Lindsay, Claire, Maritza, Katie, Melissa, Lucas, Stenation, Urban, Alcatraz. We've got Amy, Lindy, Elizabeth, Tiffany, and Lisa. That's who I got. All right, so Rebecca, let me pull you up here. Oh, you know what? I think it's up here. There we go. Rebecca, and that was 528. I laughed when I saw your message. So you're January 26, 1981. Nope, wrong Rebecca. Wrong Rebecca. There we go. This one. You are, yeah, May 28th, 1996. 12 a.m. Rockford, Illinois. And that is going to give you an Aquarius rising. Your sun is in Gemini and your moon is in Libra. Rebecca says, I'm curious how Pluto in Aquarius will affect me personally. I've been thinking of separating from the Air Force the next couple of years. If I do, what would be a next good career move for me? P.S. I live in San Antonio. I always secretly hope I'll run into you around town in the most non-creepy way possible. I've heard that from a couple people. I'm waiting for it. I'm sure somebody's going to recognize me at the HEB one day. All right, so you're asking about Pluto going into Aquarius. This is a big one for you. For starters, let's just talk about the South Node transit, okay? So the South Node which represents like detachment or releasing or letting go. Moving through Scorpio has had you thinking about, do I quit my job? Do I leave? Do I do something different? So that's going to keep coming up. Like you're going to still keep feeling that really all the way up until the summer of this year. Your career in general is more ruled by Mars, okay? And you've got Mars in Taurus. So if you think back to summer of 2022, July going into August, if you remember, if you heard either my horoscopes or if you heard other astrologers talking about how Mars, the North Node, and Uranus all came into conjunction over the summertime, it seeded something, right? And Mars is swift action, not so much in Taurus. It takes time to build up. And then Uranus represents a sudden change or a shift, okay? So that conjunction sat right on top of your Mars and also your Mercury, which means you probably started telling yourself, I got to get out of here. I need to make a change. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something different. And so there's like this restlessness. It is in your third house, so it gets you thinking about moving. It gets you thinking about what you could learn. It gets you thinking about where you could go. And possibly making changes in where you're living, okay? So when I see like North Node transits, eclipses, maybe Jupiter, maybe Uranus coming into the fourth house, I usually tell a client, look, you might move. When I see planets ingressing into the ascendant, I also tell them you might have a huge change in your life or in your surroundings. So I kind of see both setting up for you right now. When you have a positive transit to the Lord of your 10th house, Mars, you are going to see an opportunity to expand in regards to your career. And I feel like that is coming. Still, you've got some destabilizing things happening right now. You know, Uranus is going to hit Mars and Mercury. So it's going to be challenging for you, I think, in May to feel committed to what you're doing because you may get word that, oh, I've got, some work coming up. I got to travel somewhere for work. I have to go and show up somewhere. I might have to relocate for work. Pay attention to that. That could be really strong May and June. And then we're going to see, Pluto dance on your ascendant, which means you're trying to embrace something new about your future. So you're like, I want to change how I look. I want to change where I live. It's a big transformation because Pluto is, it's a very heavy energy. In Aquarius, though, in an air sign, it's kind of like facing fears, making changes. So to me, it doesn't look like just potentially quitting your job. It looks like realizing like, oh, I would also have to move and maybe consider, going to school or learning a new trade all at the same time, right? Now, next year, when you see, Jupiter come into contact with Mars and Mercury, I could see that being a smoother transition. So this is like spring of 2024. You're going to see pretty much from like, let's say the end of March through round about July. That would be a time when all those outer planets come into contact with Mercury and Mars that you would consider making a job change, but it also seems to indicate it may go hand in hand with making a change with your living situation. Third house is movement. Third house is also communication, language, siblings. So I'm wondering, like, is this the year that you feel, okay, the change is coming, I need to study something new? Okay, so she says, I just moved to a new base, aka the new job. Also, we have a primary custody of my stepdaughter, but due to her age and trouble, we have decided to let her live with her mom. Okay, so my advice would be, if you just recently moved with Pluto on your ascendant and Pluto that is technically by whole sign terms in a square to your fourth house, it represents the challenges in regards to you wanting a change, but it may not resonate with others, seventh house. Watch for when Jupiter goes into Taurus, because there may be this back and forth with what you want versus what you feel like you can do versus what your partner wants. Okay, just try to take it easy during that time in May. When could there be a shift happening for you outside of like the career stuff, more so on like the home zone, or maybe even stuff involving partners? I would look for that with the eclipses that are going to take place in the fall, because I noticed that you're having the South Node coming into contact with your North Nodes. You're getting ready to have your reverse nodal return next year. You're also getting ready to see Pluto sit on your ascendant, come into trines with your moon, come into conjunction with Uranus, because you're born in the mid 90s, right? And so if you talk to anybody who was born in the late 80s, early 90s, we've already gone through these transits. We've had Pluto hit all of our personal planets. And I think when it hits Uranus, that may indicate like a real big radical life change. You're going to start feeling that in 2025. It's not going to come into contact until closer to what appears to be 2026. But that may be a much bigger move, changing of the home, relocation that's going on. I would say that also because that's when Uranus comes into your 4th house. In terms of work, what you could or should do, because you have Scorpio on your midheaven, it does represent a job that is involving something that's daring, something that's more research related, changing and transforming, you know, managing other people's assets. And I noticed that you have Mercury and Mars in a financial sign. It's in Taurus. So I'm wondering, like, have you considered other jobs that are going to be very different than what you've been doing? You know, helping people with taxes, doing accounting, bookkeeping, stuff like that. Like, that may be things that you're good at because you have Mercury and Mars. Equally, you may be good with working on things around the home, or managing property, or like managing land, or doing residential management. You might be interested in like flipping homes and renting homes, because all of your energy relating to your 10th house is in the 4th. Real estate agent, yeah. I mean, I would say while Uranus is coming into contact with Mars and Mercury, it's going to present you with an opportunity to go, I need to learn a new language, or I need to learn a new system, or I need to pick up a book, or I need to train in some way, right? If you do that over these next few months while you're having the Uranus transits, I think it could be really good because it could show you, okay, these are the things that I'm capable of doing. So whether you want to take a real estate exam, whether you want to learn more about interior decorating, yes, Taurus, it's about what's beautiful. You learn about, you know, like gardening and lawn and things in regards to like food and like developing that stuff. All of these things, you just need to start learning them, right? So start picking up books, picking up magazines, watching videos, stuff like that. That's really going to help you learn more about this stuff and find that it's setting the path forward for you to be able to make that change next year. I like interior decorating for you, honestly, because you have Venus in the 5th, because you have so many planets tied to your 4th house. I kind of feel like that could be really great. And even if it's not decorating, you could go, okay, well, I do staging, or I sell houses. Like, there could be a couple different things that you do. So that way you keep things like interesting and diversified. Part of the Uranus transits right now are trying to get you to open your mind and be willing to do something different. And right around the time that you get to the spring of next year, yeah, there could be some changes with your home, but I also think there could be some really exciting things happening in terms of your career. And yeah, you just want to watch. I mean, you haven't had your Saturn return yet. Saturn in the 5th house, Saturn in the 2nd house at 5 degrees, learning how to develop and develop your own skills and also your own resources. And you're getting ready to go through the North Node through the 2nd house. So the next couple years is like learning how to develop your money skills, learning how to develop design skills, learning how to be more self-sufficient with your resources. It can be a really amazing time to really kind of prepare you to feel like, okay, I am financially sound. I am in a job where I feel like I have freedom and I can exercise my talents. And you're going to get a leg up before your Saturn's return, if that makes sense, right? I love that you have Saturn in the 2nd and the North Node in the 8th, because you have to learn how to do it yourself, but you also have to learn how to receive. So it's not just saying, oh, well, organize your space or decorate your space. You have to learn your value, and it's going to be about charging. So you can kind of get over that hurdle of feeling like you're never going to kind of break out of like a monotonous day job, if that makes sense, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you. And thank you for your donation. I appreciate it. We've got Carla, and then Paula, and then Lindsay. All right, Carla, I've got you here, 1983. Capricorn Sun, Cancer Rising, Moon and Sag. She says, I'm working on a big project related to entertainment, media, and publishing. I'm a Cancer Rising. It's encouraging me that there's a lot of energy in my career sector. Just wondering if anything stands out to you. Are there any times this year that seem better than others to manifest what I want? Any potential for love? I'll start at the back end first. Okay, so having Saturn finally come out of the same sign where you have your Mars and your Venus, in theory, is going to be a lot easier for your love life. One thing you will notice for the next few months is that the North and South Node are going to square Pluto, which means you can't let people into your life in terms of relationships if they're not supporting where you're going with your career. So you can have them, but they can't get in the way. That's been part of the lesson over the last few years of some of your transits. And look, you're a Cancer rising and you got a bunch of cat placements. So it's just kind of working through some of that stuff. Yeah, I mean, look, you've got a lot of things that feel like they've been held back, right? So Saturn Mars to me feels like a pulling back, kind of like a bow and arrow. You've been pulled back the last year or so with Saturn in conjunction to Mars. So feeling like you have been stunted, you haven't had the resources, you haven't had the support. Now it's releasing, okay? So once we start seeing Saturn coming into this sextile with the North Node over the next couple of months, things are really going to open up. New moon that you had on your midheaven here like a week or two ago, a solar eclipse that you're getting ready to have in your 10th house, which is really big. But I'm looking at your natal Pluto in the 4th, okay? So Pluto in the 4th, Saturn is, Pluto has been squaring that. So there's been this tug of war between past home situations, past family situations, past relationship situations, and needing to get out of that. As the North Node comes into Aries these next few months, it's going to put the South Node on your Pluto and it's all going to square Pluto. Watch what happens in July and August. Things are going to get a little intense here because that eclipse is getting activated. What I like about these squares in cardinal houses is it makes the whole wheel of the chart turn. So you change, home changes, relationships change, career changes. And the good news is that, you got the North Node in your 10th house. So all roads do point to success in your career, but it is highlighting don't fall back into old patterns in relationships and get stuck there, including people who might tempt you back. When you have really strong transits to Saturn, obviously, that's when you're going to see like the magic happen. So you don't really, Mars. You don't really have anything going on there right now. Saturn is off of it. We're going to see over the next few years. Yes, eventually, next year, Jupiter is going to square Mars. You're going to see Jupiter go into Gemini. 2024 is also looking like a year where there's even more improvement. With the North Node and Jupiter in the 10th house, you just show up. There's just a lot of showing up right now. So when do things feel the most active? Like now. Now, because you're in that new moon phase, and make a note of the April 19th, 2023 solar eclipse. It's going to oppose your Pluto, right? So it's trying to pull you out of the past, out of the home, out there into the world, and like being seen in regards to your career. When Jupiter reactivates that degree, I have a hunch that that's going to bring you even more work. And part of, I think, the planets in the 10th house are teaching you that yes, Aries, I can initiate, I can start, but it's also about learning how to be a good businesswoman and knowing how to delegate tasks, right? As those planets trine Neptune in your 6th house. Be mindful also of timing, scheduling, legality, because it's all kind of dinging your 9th house Lord in a positive way. And, fire trines, they do bring action. So I do think that, oh man, I keep doing this. Sorry, guys. I do think that April, May is a very active time. Another time that I would watch is going to be when Mars and Venus move into your 2nd house of money. So you're going to see lots of action with making investments into what you're doing, bringing more money in, driving up, your ability to be able to generate a higher income or just bringing in more. And it's all going to be making trines to the North Node. It's also going to be trining Neptune in the 6th house. Be careful with launches, right around the eclipse in April and also during the Venus retrograde, because to me, it feels like you might be rushing to kind of put something out with Venus and Mars in conjunction, or to sell something, or to make a bunch of money, and then Venus is going to go retrograde and you're going to go, oh, I thought I was ready. So yeah, I would not recommend making anything there, especially when you have that Mars and Venus opposition to your natal Mars. So just be really mindful of what you're launching over the summertime. When you come out of that opposition, going into this next 2 years, you're going to see in the Taurus area of your chart, the 11th house of others, groups, goals, Jupiter and Uranus are going to square Mars. So it's teaching me that you need other people. You can't be running a whole business by yourself. You're going to need a team. You're going to need to be networking with people. You're going to need people to refer to you, and you're going to have to refer to others. Making sure that you're really solid in some of these community groups, making sure that you're collaborating with other people. While that is difficult with the square to your 10th house Lord, it's really positive as a Capricorn. So you're going to hear for your Capricorn horoscope, oh, 2024, great for creativity, great for being able to share, being self-employed, making money, taking chances, but it's in your 11th house. So it tells me that you need others, basically. So I would watch and maybe go and learn a little bit about Uranus coming into a square with your natal Mars. It's definitely going to get kicked up the spring of next year. But still, North Node in the 10th, eclipses in the 10th. You're still going to keep going full steam ahead. Neptune is getting close, right? And in a couple years' time, yeah, Neptune and Saturn will sit on your midheaven. And you want to get clarity now, because I feel like it's going to be harder to have clarity about what you're doing work-wise a couple years from now. So I don't know what you've got kind of in the pot, but let's see. Did I lose you, Carla? Are you here? Entertainment, media, and publishing. So is it things that you're doing for other people? Because all that area should be like either you being, I'm launching my own management brand, or this is my idea, or this is my project. These should be the things that we're kind of seeing this year and next year, if that makes sense. Something about that retrograde in your 2nd house really makes me feel like there's something going on in terms of you maybe making some changes in your home life, because you've got your 10th house and your 4th house Lord, and it's going to retrograde. And the South Node has yet to come into contact with your Pluto. So I don't know if you're planning on moving, making a change with your home, something going on with your family. Just be prepared for some of those shifts that are going to be coming out of left field very unexpectedly over the summer. And I also, this would not be a time that I would recommend taking on a big mortgage, buying a new place, taking on a lease that's too expensive, because something like that could also pop up. But the trines that I think that you're having to the 10th house does seem to indicate that there's just an adjustment, and you're starting to look at things going like, do I need to be charging more? You know, what do I need to cover my bottom line? And if you are expanding your business, and let's say you need an assistant or you need some support, because both in July and also at the end of this year, I could see that coming up for you, then you're going to need to do that. So that way you can stay on task. Hopefully that's helpful for you. I've got Paula, Lindsay, and then Claire. Let's see, Paula, March 21st. I saw your question, Paula. I don't really do I do the lunar returns, not so much the solar returns. I don't have the city that you are in for the solar return, but I can tell you briefly. Paula says, solar return, I want to move across the country and focus on creating both artistic, informational content and exploring the outdoors, like a blog or social project. Will this transit help this year? I've been trying and it hasn't gained momentum. Let's see. You had your birthday in Las Vegas, huh? So it's going to give you a Sag rising with a stellium of planets in your 4th and in your 5th. So just as a reminder, you're a Scorpio rising, okay? I saw your North Node is 4 degrees Pisces in your 4th. So this whole year is a lot of where can I live that's going to feel the most conductive for me to, you know, be able to feel creative, feel inspired, and a place that feels like home. Uranus is also going into your 7th house. So there can be sudden breakthrough opportunities to be seen if you are putting out creative stuff in the internet, but also for relationships, okay? So this is Sag rising chart ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is in the 4th. So just after your birthday, right, you've got this Jupiter in the 4th house expanding the home and anything in regards to the living situation. So yeah, I mean, April, May, I mean, that's possible. Mars rules this house, and you've got Mars in a square to Neptune. So there's a lot of where am I going? Where am I meeting people? So there is a sense of you needing to find people in other places first. Whether this is your tribe, people who you can kind of work with creatively, people who you might be interested in romantically. That's why there's like a sense of feeling a little lost. But I love the stellium of planets in Aries. I think with the Sun, Moon, and Mercury in the 4th, there's a lot of reflecting on where is home, what's going to feel good, where am I going to feel safe and secure. That is all connected to your natal 5th going on your 6th house as well. So it's like finding a place where you feel like you can have a routine and be the most productive. Jupiter being connected also to the stellium of planets and being the chart ruler does kind of talk about getting a bigger home, right? Or moving to a bigger space or moving to a place that may be further away. This can also be symbolic of being away from home on your birthday, right? You wouldn't think that, but because technically this all belongs to your whole sign 5th, being places where there's casinos, where you can have fun, being further away, you're already kind of showing a lot of the solar return that came through this chart. My advice is pretty much April through, let's say, June. That's when you're going to see the bulk of the action in regards to creativity, love life, and how you're expanding on some of your creative output. I like Mars and Gemini in the 7th. I feel like that's giving you an audience to really focus on what you're writing about, what you're talking about. I'm also looking at Venus in conjunction to the North Node and Juno. And that seems to suggest a possibility for some really significant connections in relationships. That is the ruler of your 10th house. So you have to go out there, have fun, be creative, and socialize for you to be able to meet with people. A lot of your creative projects will pay off by about September, October, right? With solar return charts, you have to give it the whole year to really fully kind of develop. But with all those planets at the bottom of your chart, it's saying when you get settled, when you figure out where you want to be, what feels like home, that's when you're going to be able to start working on things. And then you can start to see a lot of that stuff open up for you in the fall. You want to think of this almost as like a Sag rising horoscope, right? You're hearing for Sag rising, you know, Jupiter in the 5th house, creativity, pregnancy, love, eclipses in the 5th house, so taking chances, having fun. There is like a birth process that's going on with what you're trying to create, but it starts at home with this chart. Jupiter is also really close proximity to Chiron. So something else that I would say with like that Chiron moon Jupiter thing going on, there can be stuff in regards to a relationship with a woman in your family, like women who are working through some emotional or domestic issues. So problems with moms, female relatives, issues also with like landlords, female roommates. Just be mindful of that. There can be some emotional kind of turbulence in that realm. And all that Aries energy is like, I want to go and I want to do this myself. I want to do it now. So you're going to act more impulsively when it comes to making a move. And opportunities may present themselves between now and June. Focus on getting landed first, okay? Figure out where you can go. Even if you're going there for a short period of time, you don't have to commit to anything long-term. But I think that that's really what's going to help you make the change. And all that Sagittarius, you know, ascendant and all that kind of Aries energy, you need to be somewhere warmer, drier kind of climates. And I would say that anyway, you know, even though Scorpio risings have a tendency to want to be places that are kind of like more gloomy, all of this says that you need like more heat and you need more sunshine. So I would advise you to try to go somewhere like that, even if you do something just for a few months over the spring or the summer. And this chart to me is screaming more about home and relationships. Even if you're not looking for relationships, it's very strong in this chart because you've got Mars trine Saturn, you've got this stellium of planets in the 5th house. You've also got your 7th house lord in conjunction to Mercury and also Jupiter. So you're going to find creative collaborators at the very least, but at the very most, it might end up being like a really romantic year for you, right? And that Mars, quincunx, Pluto, oof, it's like not knowing, like, do I take the risk and make the investments of my time or my energy? Like, are people going to be receptive to what I'm creating, right? But the 4th house is basically saying just get grounded, focus more on what you want to do first, where you want to be, and where you're going to be the most productive, and give it until the fall to see some of that stuff start to kind of pan out. I love Saturn in the 3rd if you want to start blogging. I think that that's great, but you have to make the commitment to the time to actually doing it and being consistent. And it's in a sign that deals with cameras, So also photography, taking pictures, and being consistent with how often you're going to be posting, right? Timing is very important with that transit. Hopefully you move. That's a good indication that you're going to. All right, so we've got Lindsay, Claire, Maritza. Let's see, let me pull up Lindsay. And that was Lindsay N. Oh, cool, so you're already going back and forth between two places. I think you're gonna like it. Lindsay. There we go. I think this is you, right? August 10th, 82, 11:25 p.m. Houston, Texas. Aries rising, and you got your sun in Leo and your moon in Taurus. Okay, question is for spiritual alignment. Easter is coming up and I need to schedule a 3 to 4 day fast around Lent Easter. Based on one video, I'm thinking March 30th is a good time. I'd love to hear specific thoughts on when for my chart. Wanting a windfall of money to make getting a divorce easier. Well, that eclipse on your ascendant is definitely setting the stage for that separation and fresh starts, okay? So yes, mark that eclipse, 19th-ish of April. There's going to be an eclipse 29 degrees on your ascendant. Be very careful with that eclipse because that can make you have issues with heat, fevers, accidents, things in regards to inflammation as well, right? So if you're fasting, try to stay in your body. But an eclipse in opposition to Pluto is like setting yourself free is kind of how I see it. Okay, so you're asking about fasting and giving things up, especially right around Lent. So I'm terrible. Forgive me. I don't know when these things are, but I'm going to tell you when the transits look good. Well, doing without is definitely going to be connecting to Scorpio or the South Node. So you've got South Node coming into conjunction with Jupiter. Jupiter in your chart rules the 12th house of, isolation, separation, taking time. So you're already giving up a partner, South Node on Jupiter in the 7th. That is one thing that you are already giving up. But if you want to fast or you want to do something like that, I would say when Mars is in a trine to Jupiter and the South Node. So you can start this if you want on the 28th. Or you can do this on April 2nd. Those 2 days I like. I like the moon in Virgo, actually. I do, because it's going to sextile Mars. It's also sextiling the South Node. So I would say the 30th or the 2nd of April. Those seem to be the two periods that I like. Or if you really want to go for that hard cutoff, you could do the South Node moon on April 7th, trine Mars. But I feel like that might be coming out of a fast. So if you are doing it around the beginning of April, that might be when you're quitting. Just the South Node hitting Jupiter is about embracing doing without and how you're relying on water because it's a Pisces element. It can also be about you going, I'm detoxing, I'm cleansing, I'm purging. So it's not just fasting, it's like really purging and clearing things out through the root chakra. You might notice that you want more privacy or you're wanting to kind of sleep more. And there can be more focus on spirituality or even religious stuff because of that connection to Jupiter being the ruler of your 12th. Interesting transit. How do you mind me asking if, I don't know if you're watching right now, but how did you do with South Node in conjunction to your Mars? You still have that right now. So for you to have Mars and Jupiter in conjunction, that is representing the togetherness that you have with another person, right? You got your chart lord in the 7th. So being like, I'm with somebody, but it doesn't feel good, so I'm pushing it away. So you might notice that there's clearings that you're going through with counselors, therapists, people who have been supporting you for some time, and you might just be like, I'm cutting this person off, I'm cutting that person off, I need space. And you're much more sensitive to the impact that other people have on you. South Node hitting your Mars can also bring this sense of just wanting to do things quickly. There can be much more frustration and anger and agitation that's kind of coming up for you. But the positive is, hey, the North Node's coming into contact with your moon. So you're following your emotional impulses and you're realizing that this frustration is coming up because it's things that you know that you should be cutting out. So whether it's habits, people, what have you, that North Node moon conjunction is all about self-preservation. And then when you have like the eclipse on your ascendant, and then let's see, Jupiter across your ascendant, I feel like you're going to be feeling much better and much more optimistic about the fact that you've been cleaning house figuratively and literally by about mid-May. But that Jupiter on your ascendant north node is my beliefs, my viewpoints, my philosophy, my freedom, and you're going to feel that very strongly. That's not going to go away. So it's probably a good thing that you're like detoxing and clearing stuff out and separating from relationships, because to me it seems like that's something that you might actually really need. I know that's difficult. It's been real for you, girl. You've had Uranus that's been in a square with your sun, and Saturn was opposing. And now you're getting hit with the South Node transits through Libra. But it's all North Node Jupiter in your first, bringing you back home to yourself. So you'll notice that you're acting more so impulsively. So just be mindful of that, okay? Good luck with your fast. So yeah, the 30th, or I think they said the 4th. Those seem to be the 2 days that are going to be best for you. And be mindful of Uranus square your sun too. There's a lot of drama that can kind of come up with that. So you need something creative as an outlet to kind of move that energy around a little bit. Hopefully that's helpful. I've got Claire, Maritza, and Katie. You guys are on deck. I'm reading your comments, Erin. I'll throw you a bone. I'm a Libra ascendant Pisces, sun in the 5th, moon Taurus in the 8th. I have no friends. Aquarius, Saturn really took my friends away. Same, Libra rising. I had so many friend breakups. It's not even funny. My Saturn's in the 4th house. Mercury is in Aquarius in the 5th. Sun is in Pisces in the 5th. I haven't dated since the end of 2021. Well, I definitely think if your sun's coming into conjunction with Saturn, it's about taking yourself on dates. That's what it's about. And doing things that are creative, that are more self-fulfilling, and then you'll meet other people while you're doing that. Saturn in the 5th can be a bummer. But you got to date yourself. Okay, so let's go ahead. We've got Claire, Maritza, and Katie, and then Melissa. Okay, so Claire. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. March 16th, 1975. I feel something brewing. Can you give me some insight? Many thanks. You got it. She feels something brewing as she's about to have an eclipse conjunct her Venus. Man, a lot of eclipse stuff that's coming up for you guys. All these Aries Libra placements. Yeah, it's that, but also it's Pluto, you know. So Claire, if you're watching this, Pluto rules your chart, right? Pluto and Mars. You've got Pluto that just entered 0 degrees of Aquarius. It is still in your 3rd house of the mind, communication, siblings, movement, ideas. But Pluto is coming in for a square with your natal Uranus. So it's kind of like, oh, I think I'm going to start communicating differently with people within my family. I am starting to also really tap in, right? Pluto can be extrasensory. It can be like X-ray vision, intuition. That square to Uranus is this feeling like, oh, I think I'm going to move, or oh, I think that I'm going to have issues with a vehicle, right? Pluto in the 3rd house. So the mind is waking up and becoming more aware of things within the subconscious. Dreams, usually people who have Uranus in the 12th house have very strong, vivid dreams. And Uranus rules your 4th house on top of Saturn being there. So not to get like too cryptic, but I mean, a lot of Scorpio risings with Pluto going into the whole sign 4th. And in your case, you have Saturn in your Placidus 4th. I would be checking on my siblings, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. There can be health-related issues that are coming up for some of these people. Saturn is also in conjunction to your natal Mercury. So that is going to be about learning to trust the intuition when you can't find the words or there isn't clarity in regards to what you're feeling that's coming. Watch what happens when Mars goes into Cancer. It's going to be tomorrow. But it's going to go into Cancer and it's going to trine Uranus and also Saturn. So that can be about changes financially, changes with the home. But I'm also looking at when Mars comes into conjunction with Saturn, because it's still going to be in a loose trine with Saturn. That'll be around mid-April. The good news is lots of positive aspects going on in your 7th house. Jupiter there, eclipses coming there. You're going to start to see also that the North Node is coming into conjunction with Venus, so that can really be putting a focus on health and healing and daily routine. But there's a lot of action in your 7th house that's brewing. So between that and the sextile to Saturn, to me, it seems like it's going to be about gaining more support from other people in regards to changes going on with you emotionally or within your home, right? But when you say, oh, I feel something's brewing, I think it's Pluto square Uranus. Neptune's getting very close to your Jupiter as well. Holy cow. So you got Neptune that's going to start coming into conjunction with your Sun and your Jupiter. Are you feeling inclined to be like taking photos, painting, dancing, drawing? Are you feeling like super psychically tapped in? Because that's a pretty big transit in itself, Neptune Sun. And it may really open things up in regards to what you feel like your purpose in life is. Can be some issues with the immune system. You might be a little sleepy. Watch your feet. There can be stuff health-wise going on with that. But to me, that looks like an opening that's going to be happening where you're feeling like really inspired to do something more either spiritual or artistic, basically, when it comes to your professional life, and feeling very inspired. And Neptune will kind of transit that over the next few years. I really like that transit for you with the sextiles to planets in your 7th house. I mean, that's like where we fall in love with a hobby or a person, or we have like a major creative breakthrough. So that actually kind of alleviates some of the heavier transits that you got going on. But I would look into Pluto square Uranus, because I feel like that's going to be like where, when you're not sure if you want to communicate, you have to rely more on your intuition. And there can be a sense of kicking yourself and being like, I should have said something, right? I should have said something. And I'm wondering what's going to happen here when the North Node hits your Venus, because Jupiter's going to be there and then the North Node's going to hit it. So you might find some really prominent like women who are healers, or they're like health practitioners of some kind, because Jupiter's going to hit Chiron and Venus and then the North Node. It might also be a time where you're like helping take care of an animal. I know that sounds weird, but you might like foster an animal or a pet or something for another person, or being more so connected to being of service brings new relationships in, with Jupiter and Uranus going through your natal 7th and Jupiter hitting your moon. Oh my goodness. This is some big stuff. You've got Juno in opposition to Uranus. So to me, it seems like there's some destabilizing stuff with relationships. Whether there's like actually taking time apart, or some on and off, or keeping some relationships at a distance. Pluto coming into Aquarius is T-squaring Uranus and also Juno. So you're going to see where it actually is beneficial to have people come in and support you, whether it's romantic relationships, therapists, astrologers, people who can help you feel a little bit more secure and stable. Be open for some of the relationship opportunities that are coming in. It can be really supportive with the chart right now. Good luck. Let me know how that goes with the Neptune transit. That's a very, very spiritual transit. I've got Maritza, Katie, Melissa, and Lucas. Let's see. It's okay, Carrie. I'm sure I will see you soon. All right, so let's see, Maritza. I didn't get your time. Maritza, are you here? That reminds me. So I've got 8:25:84 in the Bronx, but I do not have your time. So let's see if she's here. Are you here? Because I would like your time so I can properly read your chart. I will go to Katie and see if she pops in here. Oh, there you are. Okay. Thank you. 9:47 p.m. There we go. All right. Okay, so another one, another 29 degrees. All right, so your question was, is that right? 47 p.m. Okay. No question, just feeling the emotional and mental burden of people hurting, betraying, abandoning me, feeling being stuck and confused, uncertainty for the future, my path, and how to heal from the wounds, fighting for peace of mind. All right, sending you lots of good vibes. It definitely sounds to me like that incoming eclipse, not to make it about that, but you're finally coming out of your Pluto square Pluto here. It's going to still hit a little bit for the next year, but you know, as soon as the North Node comes into contact with your ascendant, it doesn't even have to be like that. The North Node and South Node contact, it doesn't have to hit a planet or an angle. It can hit before or it can hit after. But I look at this and go, the North Node's in your first house. You're focusing on your body, your security, and how you feel and taking care of you, right? As you're doing that, the South Node has been swinging through your 7th house. So it's been activating that Saturn-Pluto, hurt, betrayal, karma in regards to relationships, not feeling supported. I hear you on that. I see it. But it's about you right now. It's about you right now. And here comes this eclipse around the 3rd week of April. Everybody's going to be sick of hearing it. The 19th, 29 degrees, which is the fresh start. Okay, so that can also represent like this purge that's going to go on because it's 29 degrees. And it's going to square Pluto in the 10th house. It's also going to oppose natal Pluto. So this is a sensitive time for the next month. But really, it's kind of saying like, okay, it's self-preservation 101, right? So as these transits are happening, and as we see the North Node continue and actually move into Aries, it's still squaring Pluto. So now through July, it's about you and the changes that you're making either to your career or your identity out in the world. That's first and foremost. 2 is Jupiter is in these same degrees pretty soon, which means it's expanding your horizons. It would be helpful for travel, for taking courses, learning, changing your philosophy, having a spiritual practice, prayer. That's going to help you through this. 2, you also have transit Saturn in Pisces. So it's in your opposite sign as a Virgo. It's coming into opposition with your sun. So there's this sense of who loves me? I don't have anybody. I need love. What's going on? Why am I not receiving support? Well, that's what happens when we feel a Saturn opposition to the sun. But it is going to be in your 11th house. So it's less about romantic love. It's more about community. So I'm not saying you can't have relationships, but it is going to be more about community. It's not really about dating right now. You will see that throughout this entire year, the Saturn opposed the sun. If you don't reach out and ask for help, people aren't going to know that you're going through what you're going through. So I'm not telling you have to, tell everybody what's going on in your life, but there is a need to really reach out. You got Sun and you got Mercury in Virgo, so Saturn is going to oppose that. That also means that you're thinking a lot about the headway that you want to be making in your professional life or your career. I think it's really beneficial to have people around you that are inspiring to you, that are going to also be productive members of society or really working towards their goals. These are the kind of people that you want to have around you because they're going to help build you up, right? Saturn will be trining your natal Saturn, which is great. And I can see that you were born with the sun in a square to Chiron. So there's some wounding revolving around self-esteem, security, does anybody hear me? Does anybody see me type of wounding. So while Saturn is in Pisces, it's activating that mutable square involving Mars. It may be good to go and participate in like groups with other people, not just in a sense of like for social reasons, but like actually going and doing like group therapy, group healing, community work revolving around being able to feel heard or feel seen, and it can be dance classes, working with other artists, taking, meditation classes. These things will be really helpful for you so you can kind of navigate through this square all year. And you're gonna be in this all year. Between that and the Pluto square, and I've seen a lot of people from 1983 and 1984 who are going through the Pluto square right now, and they're all having meltdowns because you guys have Pluto at 29 degrees. So it's bringing up the pain revolving around, I don't feel like there's a sense of balance and harmony in my relationships. So this is kind of the turning point while Pluto squares that, where you look around and you go like, I'm the one who's in control. I decide whether or not I'm going to let people have that kind of power over me. And I'm not going to keep putting myself in that situation. I'm going to take the power back. That's what the North Node and also Jupiter on your ascendant is all about. Moving your body helps with all these placements in Aries. So I would say like, getting stagnant, not moving around, isolating yourself. These are not things that you want to do. And whether you do it this year or you're looking at doing it next year, Saturn is going to be moving into your 12th house. And it would be a really good idea to take up a meditation practice because, you know, Saturn's going to be in your 12th house for a number of years. It's going to be an extended period before it's going to be crossing your ascendant. It's all about what you're doing behind the scenes in the privacy of your own time and consciously deciding, I'm going to take some time for myself rather than feeling like you're being abandoned or that you're being kind of left alone, right? When do things open up in terms of like relationships and feeling better? I mean, I got to tell you, yeah, the Saturn opposition is challenging, but you are going to see that Jupiter going into Taurus is really positive. It's going to start trining all of your placements in Virgo. It's going to be really great for you in terms of feeling more sound and comfortable in your body, investing in yourself more. It may even bring more opportunities for you financially and also for work. Maybe it's just that you're, like I said, you're investing in yourself, Jupiter going into the second house. But I think that it's going to be really great for building healthy self-esteem. So look to those trines to be helping you pretty much all year and even into next year. Once Jupiter's coming into a trine with your Venus, I do think that that could open up your relationships pretty significantly. The Saturn opposition you'll feel all year long, and then the Pluto square Pluto is most intense through the summer, but then once you get to the end of 2024, you're coming out of that square. Okay, so it's about a year and a half left that you're going to deal with Pluto square Pluto. I think it's about power struggles, whether it's in relationships or your career. And I would really recommend looking into that transit because it can help you realize what needs to be cleared out to make room for what's new that's coming in. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful for you. What's up, Lindsay? We have got Katie, Melissa, Lucas, and Stacy Ann. All right. So Katie. What's up, Katie? Nice to see you again. And that was January 9th. What's going on? How will this transit impact my career, relationships with authority, and love interest? Super curious and a bit anxious. Well, she's asking about Pluto entering into Aquarius. Well, I mean, this transit for you is an interesting one because it is finally starting to move out of the Capricorn zone. So just having so many placements in Capricorn in general, it's going to start to give you a bit of a reprieve from what's been a very long Pluto transit for you. It's not changing houses, okay? So it's still going to be staying in the 11th house. So it's bringing up the theme of change, transformation in regards to your goals, your friendships, and also anything in regards to other people. Pluto rules your 8th house, okay? So this is about joint resources. This is going to be about spending, banking, loan, inheritance, taxes. I think if this, in a big way, because it's squaring the nodes, is going to be about where you're spending your money, right? So the 11th house is the money that comes from the work that you do out in the world. It's not just about that because you got Jupiter in the North Node going into your second. So I think it's going to be about, okay, where do I spend my money? What companies do I want to be buying from? Who do I not want to, support? So you may feel very strongly about your financial goals, about who you're sharing your resources with, and about your political beliefs. All of those things are going to get kind of dinged with Pluto in your 11th house. Relationships with authority. Okay. I mean, at least Pluto's coming into a sextile with your Mars. So I think that's going to be more so opening up things in regards to powerful connections to people in other places. I don't think it's going to trigger too much with authority issues. You're coming into Pluto trine Pluto. So Pluto trine Pluto tells me that it's going to enhance your friendships. It's going to enhance your relationships. So it's not really hindering you the way maybe you think it might. In regards to love interest, you've had Pluto in a trine to your descendant for some time. But when Pluto starts making a trine to your natal Pluto out of 4, I think that's going to be bringing up the theme of being able to get to a point in a relationship where maybe you're expanding in relationship commitments and discussing the possibility of having a joint space and living together and your goals in regards to your home base, right? Because your Pluto is at a 4. So I do think that this is going to be, I mean, it's going to be challenging for everybody because it's moving into a fixed sign. But in your case, it's nothing compared to the Pluto conjunctions you've had in recent years. I'd be more concerned about Neptune coming into conjunction with your ascendant and Saturn coming into conjunction with your moon than I would Pluto, because Pluto is technically sextiling your ascendant. It's also making a sextile to your chart ruler, Neptune. It's making a trine to Pluto, right? Not to downplay the Pluto transit. Everybody is going to experience the node square Pluto. So when I look at that from an evolutionary standpoint, the North Node and the South Node being in the 1st and the 7th house, square Pluto is what friends of mine are going through changes in crisis, right? Which friends of mine do I still want to stay connected to? Which political party, which group association, which social network do I want to be a part of? Who am I giving my resources to? So that's more of how it's going to affect you. It's positive for your relationships. It's positive for your body. I would be more looking at Neptune in conjunction to your ascendant, because I think it's going to be about whether or not you're using, you have enough clarity when it comes to making decisions with your health, when it comes to making decisions also with what you're eating or how you're spending, right? Be careful with Pluto square the nodes of like people giving you financial advice or people asking you to borrow or lend. That might be something that comes up with Pluto in the 11th square the nodes. But for the most part, it's really not as challenging as anything that you've been through in recent years with all these Pluto conjunctions. You may notice that, when Pluto starts coming into a sextile with your moon, your Chiron, this will be in a number of years, that can also trigger stuff in regards to your body. But like, I'm really splitting hairs here. For right now, I think it's going to be more about what power you're giving to other people. And I'm just going off of what I've seen astrologically for other people. I've seen a lot of people with this square that have very strong opinions about which companies they want to support, right? Or very strong opinions about, oh, I'm getting off of Facebook, or I'm deleting or deactivating my social media account, or I'm moving to a new platform, right? There can be death and rebirth themes, right, that are coming from some of your friends. So you may have friends that go through crisis. You may have friends that may, pass away, but this is a 20-year transit. So I'm not saying this to scare you, but I would be more focused on your Neptune transit, honestly. I mean, even though it's a very mystical, magical, psychic transit, I have some concerns with the nodal squares and Neptune on your ascendant, that somebody tries to sell you on, oh, this is a good investment, this is a good idea, you should put your money here, or you should invest in this thing with us, or what have you, and then you realize like it's not what you thought it was, right? That's more of what I'm kind of wondering. And I would start looking into transit Neptune in conjunction to your ascendant. I'd start looking into transit Saturn coming into conjunction with your moon, because that's definitely going to be a very colorful transit for you. Because that's going to represent more where you're consciously taking time alone, dealing with what might be heavier moods, but you might need a private, creative, or a spiritual space to be working from. Because as Neptune creeps up on your ascendant, you're going to feel like you need more and more space. So maybe if you're doing that, you're feeling that kind of isolatedness, there is a sense of Pluto really kicking in, and some friends being like, are you going to join us? There can be drama and conflict with friends that can come from, not feeling as connected to other groups. Right? But yeah, look forward to the Pluto trines. I love Pluto trine Pluto for you. I think that's really going to open up your relationships in a very, very positive, harmonious way. And I think you might have some new fringe friends that are coming in, that are just strange and unusual and kind of different. Or you might be like, oh my gosh, so-and-so is posting all this crazy stuff. They just seem like way over the top. Like they just become like this conspiracy theorist or this extremist. And you're like, I can't hang out with that person. That may be also what happens here. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Katie. Thank you for your question. We've got Melissa. And then Lucas, Stacy, Ann, and Urban. You're on deck. Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate it. Okay, so let's pull up Melissa. You're welcome. And that was 11/25/82. Melissa says, I am starting a new work position for the end of April, working as this, we'll be working this temp gig to lead to more work the rest of this year. Okay, sorry, I'm not reading this right. Starting a new work position for the month of April. Will working this temp gig lead to more work for the rest of the year? Many thanks. You are awesome. Thank you. Okay, so temp gig. Let's take a look here. So to me, it looks like work is going to be more connected to Mars. Mars has been retrograde, square Neptune. So you're like, where am I going? What am I doing? Here's what's kind of cool. Saturn's coming into your 10th house, and Saturn is about laying a foundation, solidifying something. Okay. So in general, Saturn being in the 10th house is going to represent consistent work, showing up, management, having a lot on your plate, but like having a lot to look forward to in terms of what you're building. What's frustrating / challenging is that you're going through this while you also have Saturn squaring your natal Sun and Uranus. So having Sun Uranus in the 6th house, there has a tendency to be changes with work and career and scheduling, or maybe there's just more freedom necessary for the kind of work that you're doing. So it's not unusual for you to kind of do a little bit of work here, a little bit of work there, and like you're flexible, you can kind of make changes. When Saturn squares your Sun, there's this feeling of working hard, hitting roadblocks, having delays, sometimes being told, no, not yet, so on and so forth. So being that Mars rules your work schedule and then it's moving into the 10th house of work, there can be a sense of you being like, I'm working really hard with hopes that this is going to pan out. The good news is that Mars is going into your 2nd house of money. Venus and the Sun are going to go there. So it does look like you're working over this, spring going into the summer. I wonder when Saturn starts retrograding and it comes into a square with Uranus and the Sun, right around August, okay? August and September. These are the times you want to be watching for. We are retrograde through the 10th house, reevaluating, do I want to stick this out? Do I want to work here? Is it working for me? Do I like the people I'm working for? How is my schedule? I also feel like at the same time, you're going to have a number of other retrogrades that are going to be having you really think about, is it easier for me to take a job closer? Do I need something closer to home? Have I found something that's going to be a little bit more stable? I just got out of this. In this last year, I had Saturn square my Sun. And one thing that it taught me is that you can't give up. You just have to keep going. Even though it's really a lot of work and it feels like you're kind of treading water and you're not getting anywhere. Once you're coming out of the square and Saturn goes direct, you'll look around and go, oh, okay, it was worth the effort. Like, look at what I was able to achieve. You will come out of that square right around the beginning of 2024. So there can be the sense of going back and forth, going back and forth. I think you're pretty solid until about June or July. I do think that right around September and right around December, those seem to be the 2 times that you're reevaluating if it's working for you or not. When Saturn squares Uranus, I feel like the bigger challenge is going to be, you're going to look at things and go, I have this other opportunity over here. Should I take it or should I stay in this position hoping that it's going to expand? And I would tell you, if you have another opportunity coming that you know is going to be solid, you're going to make more money, and it's going to be worth more of your time and your effort than holding on to something hoping that it evolves, you have to take that leap of faith. It's really important that you do that, because you're going to look at this and go, oh, I can try to do both, or maybe let me see if I can, and it's not going to be easy for you to do. Look for positions that come up that are going to give you more responsibility and also that are going to give you maybe like a management or like a superior role. With Saturn going through the 10th house, you need to have a higher status, or it's going to be some sense of having more recognition for the position that you're in. So right now, it's like, look, work looks fine. You're not going to have issues working. I think you might be doing this probably until about May through July, right? After that, I have an idea that there is going to be more that's coming up. At the very latest, I guess, I would give this until December, because in December, when you have a retrograde, Mercury retrograde in your work zone, it's going to be you going, well, are they going to give me that job that's going to like lead to something more full-time or not? If you can wait that long. I think you're going to see something in the fall that's going to come up and you're going to realize like, okay, now I can make a segue and it's definitely going to pay more. And in the midst of all of this, try to stay positive. You got a lot of Sag in your chart. So all of these squares in the 10th house, it is going to feel like you're looking at things going like, man, this is just, I'm trying, I'm not getting that recognition. Don't get frustrated and watch for pessimistic or negative thinking. Because Saturn square your Mercury and your Venus, you're going to be like, where's the love? I'm not getting recognition. Like, you have to give yourself a pat on the back, because you may not always get it from your employer or from your clients or from your partners. and just keep full steam ahead, right? Keep focusing on where you're going. Right around the time you come out of the square at the end of the year, you're going to see that you've made headway. At the very least, I think you're going to have some kind of experience that is going to lead to more stable work, right? And also Jupiter being in Aries, I mean, it's going to be good for doing more creative work and things that feel more fulfilling. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Melissa. All right, so we've got Lucas, and then Stacy Ann, and then Urban. Followed by Amy. Lucas. All right, so I think this is the part where I have to put your guys' charts in. So give me a minute. I got to plug all these in for you guys. You guys can grab a snack. All right, so we've got Lucas here, June 2nd, 1980. You're welcome, Melissa. 5:19 p.m. March 31st, 95. For Elizabeth, I need your birth information, please. I need your time, date, city, all that stuff. Same for Tiffany. If you guys don't give me this, I can't look at your chart. I'm just going to refund you. Let's see. And I got Lisa, but I don't have your info either. Did you guys send this to me? I see Lisa's. December 3rd, 67. December 29th, 75. $11:35 a.m. Thanks. I think I've got you, Lindsay. So I've got Lisa, but Tiffany and Elizabeth. Anybody? Are you guys here? Tiffany and Elizabeth? All right, Tiffany. $9/11/87. $12:05 p.m. Thank you. And Elizabeth, if you're here, let me know. Hopefully I can get you. Okay, so let's see. So we're going to start with Lucas, Stacy Ann. I've got Urban Alcatraz and then Amy in that order. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. All right, so let's look at Lucas. Lucas says, hey Candace, can you help me understand my upcoming Uranus opposition? I also have Uranus squaring my natal node placements. I'm wondering how that'll affect me in the opposition. Good question. Okay, so you've got transit Uranus coming into opposition with natal Uranus. By Placidus terms, it's going to be happening in your 5th house. Okay, so 5th house, taking chances, love affairs, creativity, dating, falling in love, self-employment, gambling, all the fun stuff, right? What's interesting is that when you have a natal planet square the nodes, right? So you've got Uranus square the nodes. Interesting, unusual, different friends. You may have friends that are a little rough around the edges with Uranus and Scorpio in the 11th house, but still active, right? Uranus is very comfortable being in the 11th house, and it's also pretty comfortable being in Scorpio. So there's no problems there. At a 22, it makes me feel like it's about, as you get older, friends changing or the goals that you have changing. Scorpio can be about transformation, evolution, you know, the list goes on. For you, Uranus rules your 3rd house, which deals with the mind and communication. So to me, it seems like you're going to have other interests that you want to talk about with some of your friends, but some of your friends may not have those same interests. So you're talking to younger people who share those interests with you. When you have the opposition, it's going to be with Jupiter. Okay, so you're going to have it first starting around this fall, right around the first opposition will be July. The second opposition is going to be September. And then the third opposition is going to be right around April and May of 2024. Now, when Jupiter shows up, right, what you're going to see that's going to happen is then you're going to be like, oh, okay, I am Jupiter. Now I can, you know, go and start a group, or maybe I'm dating somebody who's younger, who has some of these interests, or maybe it's become more than just a hobby. Maybe I'm like actually trying to make a living off of doing something that's going to be more Uranian. Uranus in the 5th house can mean that you're taking up hobbies that you have to participate in with other people. Your interest for astrology might grow exponentially. The list goes on. And you know, you were born with Chiron in opposition to Uranus, so you're used to having changes with friends, right? These friend groups kind of ebb and flow. Now when Uranus goes through the 5th house, you have so many sudden new interests or love interests or hobbies or things that it may actually take you away from some of your older friend groups. I'm very curious. Actually, you and I have our nodes at the same place. So I have my north and south node at 21 degrees of Leo and Aquarius. So I've been studying the up and coming square because I'm like, it's going to oppose my stuff and it's going to square what's going to happen. Think of when planets square the nodes moving to the next step. So you may feel a little bit of like, I'm caught between what friends I've used to have or what goals I've used to have and, you know, what new goals or love interests are emerging for me, and feeling like you're kind of between a rock and a hard place. 22 degrees does deal with like career endeavors or things that you're responsible for. So let's say you haven't had children, right? Part of me wonders if Jupiter and Uranus going through the 5th house is that moment where you're like, wait a second, did I want to have a kid? Like, should I have done that? It can also be a time where you start asking yourself, like, do I want to be in a relationship? Do I want to be in love? You want to constantly be asking yourself, what do you love? What is going to bring you the most joy, right? Think of Venus being associated with Taurus. So it's going to be about what feels good, what smells good, what tastes good, what is ultimately going to give you the most pleasure. With Jupiter and Uranus coming together in the 5th house next year, you're going to be a pleasure seeker. But it might mean that you're like, I'm cooking more or gardening more because I like to eat my own food, or I like to make my own herbal products, or I like to, you know, serve other people, or maybe I'm going to try to open up like a food truck, something like that. That's going to be a risk, but also about an interest, and it's going to help you kind of connect to new groups of people, and it's going to be about taking chances. At the same time, that is going to be in motion for a while. So I want you to think back to what happened over like the last like year or two while Saturn was in Aquarius, because I feel like you were being really overly cautious maybe with how you're communicating with people, how you're investing your time, how you're investing your money, and you didn't want to make any sacrifices, or you didn't want any losses while Saturn was on your south node. Now that Saturn's moving away, now you're going to be able to take more creative risks, art, creativity, yeah. But I think of like Uranus and Taurus in the 5th house is like NFTs, right? It could also be that you want to start making things that are going to be experienced, so like art you can smell, or you can touch, or you can like taste. So there's something here that's like finally going to emerge, and you absolutely positively have to follow those impulses and surround yourself with other people who are going to be creatives. So I would say do it. Know that next year is going to be more like that breakout year. When Uranus first makes its opposition, I think it might just be that your friends are like, what are you doing now? You're making art, like you're selling photos, like you're sculpting. And they might kind of be like, oh, that's weird. And you're like, whatever, it makes me happy. And you're going to find other people who are going to share in the same interest as you, even if they're different or if they're younger, right? And Jupiter and Uranus are trining your natal Saturn. That's wonderful. So that's also saying like it's giving you an outlet for all of that perfection energy that you have in Virgo. And also you may come into contact with some like really prominent teachers, mentors, people who can kind of help you like show you the path forward and being able to exercise your creativity and express it in a very Saturn way, like with form, right? With form and precision. And yeah, being a little bit more of a perfectionist. There's a book that I would recommend. It's called, I think it's Uranus Opposition and the Rising of Kundalini. It's by Barbara Hand Clow. That whole book is about the Uranus opposition. It's really helpful because she talks a lot about a lot of experiences and how men experience it differently than women, and how for men it might be like this really insane outburst of like creative energy that they need to learn how to tame so it doesn't manifest as something that's purely sexual. And it can in the 5th house, that can happen. So there can definitely be some like risque love affairs, and definitely some like more like intimate things that are going on, or like even like erotic art can come through the 5th house with that conjunction. I've gotten into working back with painting with real materials and not just digital. Yeah, I mean, physical, right? Taurus, things that you can feel. Because you're going to want that texture. You're going to want to be able to create that dimensions that can be physically experienced. So maybe there's a way for you to be able to do that and then shoot it and then create digital versions. But if you want to physically make something, that's very Taurus. I wonder if you'll also experiment with like using like crystals, or you'll use other elements that you're putting in the art or putting in the paint. You'll start integrating things that might even be just like painting things that are flowers and stuff in nature, or maybe like bodies and like physiques. Like that can come up too with all that Taurus energy. But I like the idea that you can create things, and then the opposition is you sharing it with other people. So I like the idea of like joining group collaborations of showing your work, but like making it all about you. The 5th house is about you. Where Uranus in the square with the 11th house has been this constant turnover with other people. Now it's your time, right? So now the focus really is on you. And there might be some friend turnover, there might be some jealousy that comes from that, but you kind of need the attention right now. Hopefully that's helpful. Definitely circle back. Let me know what happens with the first opposition. It's gonna get interesting there during the retrograde, because that's when you're gonna start feeling it, right around the end of April going into May. And you're gonna have an eclipse in opposition to Chiron in your 11th house. So it's already gonna be brewing within like the next month. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Let me pull up Stacy. Cool, thanks Luke, I appreciate it. Good luck with your art. Stacy Ann, the markets economy are in a bit of turmoil. I want to know, will my investment be successful, profitable the next few years in the long term? Thanks. My question is, what did you invest in? What did you invest in? If you want to talk about long term versus short term, I guess the short term right now is that you've got eclipses and the North Node and Jupiter moving through the 2nd house. So that's really great for bringing in resources for the time being, right? The long-term perspective, and this is where I start to kind of wonder, is you have Neptune coming into your 2nd house where you're questioning what's going to happen with my money, and it's making oppositions to your sun in the 2nd, which is about what you have invested in. Okay, so you're asking me about like long term. I'm thinking about like 2025, 2026, when Neptune and Saturn are in opposition to your sun. That could be more precarious. Could be. I'm not saying it will. A lot of it also is going to depend on when you made the investment specifically, right? But with Saturn and Neptune in opposition to the sun, there can be this sense of like, wait, I thought something was going to pan out. Like, is it what I thought it was? Especially having Saturn go through the 2nd house in general can be more challenging for finances. But also, I think of this from the perspective of that conjunction to your Mars, which is like, okay, I had plans that, you know, that money was going to quadruple or do this or do that by this point in time. Like, it's a little bit of having to detach right now from a specific timeline. Jupiter and Neptune have connections to your natal 2nd house. And when I look at some of those transits to those planets in your natal astrology, you're going to see stuff playing out much sooner. I would be looking at in 2024 going into 2025 when Saturn and Neptune are squaring some placements that you have in Sagittarius, Saturn and Uranus. because that makes me feel like there is still more group funding, or there are things that are panning out, but they may not have paid out as well as you thought. For the time being though, like right now, I mean, with Jupiter and all these transits going through, yeah, I mean, in theory, you're supposed to have a pretty decent run here, but I feel like Neptune coming in, I would be very cautious with what you're investing in. And this is starting as soon as Neptune gets into your second house. So I don't know if I would put any more money up into some of this stuff personally. Next month, Neptune hits 26, which is a money degree, goes into your second house. Investments that you've already made, right? You want to be looking at, 8th house could be losses. So when you start having eclipses in your 8th house, which is going to be in the fall, you're going to know whether or not these things are going to be panning out or paying off by roundabout here. Now, I do think that there's something significant happening here, okay? Because October 14th, when we have this eclipse, it's going to be right on top of your natal Mercury, which is literally the ruler of the 8th house, which is like, what am I getting back, right? Where's the action? Where is this going? So you're going to have some idea of what direction it's going in roundabout there. You would need to see a really positive transit involving Jupiter or Neptune for things to be shaping up in a positive way with your finances. And the truth is Jupiter's there now. So I think that you'll have some resources coming in even over the next couple of months, but I'd be very cautious about putting more money into something like that. And you want to be mindful that in a couple years' time, when Saturn comes into Pisces, I do think that not just because Saturn's going into your second house, but Saturn and Neptune will be together. It's going to be making some oppositions and some squares, and you're going to see Saturn and Neptune opposing your sun. I don't know about some of the stuff that you've invested in. Like I said, it really depends on when you made the investments, right? Money that you make in your astrology, that connection to Neptune, you've got Neptune in the 12th house. So you do better investing in things that are more international, things that are about your vision for where you see the world going. You do see the opportunity for investing in tech because the ruler of that is Saturn, and you got Saturn conjunct Uranus. So crowdfunding things in regards to tech. I just think that, yeah, the delays are very evident in regards to your astrology. And I would be very cautious as you're getting into the next couple of months. And if you decide, hey, we've had some stuff, play out, and now I can take some money out, you may consider cashing out on some stuff. Honestly, I think you will consider cashing out on some things, especially right around the fall of this year. Large sum of money due to my mom's passing. So if you have that coming in with Neptune in the second house, just my advice is, I'm not telling you to not tell people, but I would be very secretive. When Neptune goes into the second house, you don't need to be telling people about your financial situation because it's coming into an opposition with your sun, which means there will be other people who are going to go, oh, she's got this thing, invest in this idea, invest in that idea, because oppositions are relational, especially because your sun is at a 2, that's a money degree, and it's also, it's about men. So as Neptune's coming into Aries and coming into contact with Mars, you're going to see that there's going to be other people who are going to want to get intertwined or intertangled with your finances, whether it's partners, business partners, joint investors, stuff like that are going to want to have control over your resources. So I wouldn't tell anybody. I would keep it to myself. And you're going to have an opportunity to buy in and make investments in the fall. So it might be a matter of just sitting back and seeing where some of these investments have already gone, holding on to your money, and then wait until the eclipses hit around mid-October. And then I think that you can make some investments, and it would be better timing because it's going to start, making some sextiles and some other aspects to your second house, right? But for right now, yeah, Jupiter in the North Node being in your second house, the answer is yes. You can definitely bring in some more money right now. So I don't want this to sound all doom and gloom. You've got some really great transits over the next month. So if there's a delay, but then there's an opportunity to take some money off the table and do it, I would do that if the opportunity presents itself, because it's going to be a pretty quick moving transit. And you'll hear for Capricorn rising, oh, Pluto's going into your second house of money. Okay, but for you, it's on your ascendant still. So you're not really going to start to see the effects of some of these financial things and feeling the tightness in finances for a couple of years. So be wise with the money that you have right now. Don't just go investing it into just anything. Wait until you have an opportunity to get a better deal on some stuff in the fall. Okay? Hopefully that's helpful. Watch for missing money too. Losing wallets and leaving stuff in Ubers and all kinds of stuff. There can be a lot of that, you know, possessions that you lose. Wallets, especially when Neptune goes into the second house. Be careful. So we've got Urban Alcatraz. I'm going to ask you, how do you pronounce your name? Xenia? Xenia? Let's pull this up. What is your question? Let me know. I have your chart, but I do not know your question. Amy, the Lindsay store, Elizabeth and Tiffany and Lisa, you guys are all next, so you're on deck. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. For Urban Alcatraz, are you still there? Aquarius rising, Aquarius moon, sun in Pisces. You've got Pluto that's coming into conjunction with your Saturn. What's going on? Thank you, Eliza. I appreciate it. Thank you, Amy. I got your question. Wow. So for people who were born like 1991, yeah, 1990, 1991, who have Saturn in Aquarius, having that Pluto transit, oh my goodness, that is still real. It's like you have your Saturn return and then you're like, wait, what? I know what that's like. I had my Pluto transit my Saturn, and then I had my Saturn return. So same. It's both equally challenging. There she is. Do you have a particular question for me? I'm just looking at some of your transits, kind of curious about your Jupiter-Venus transit in the second. That's good for resources and money, bringing an opportunity for more travel, purchasing possessions, cars, moving. But I'm looking at Pluto that's leaving your North Node and coming in for a Saturn conjunction. Yeah, it's going to play out over the next couple of years, but you're really going to feel that. With Pluto in your 12th house in a square, are you trying to focus on building a business behind the scenes? What's going on there? It's almost kind of like also the fruit, like the fruit of Pluto being on the North Node. How interesting is that to have had that these last few years, which may have felt like a lot of things were getting wiped out, but really kind of prompting a lot of like your spiritual beliefs and like learning a lot about yourself behind the scenes, and maybe continuing education, training of some kind, really focusing on your mental health. Pluto is a psychological planet. So the fact that Pluto's been there for the last couple of years and now it's coming into close proximity with Saturn and your moon, have you been thinking about getting into a job or a position where you're like working with other people with their mental health, or wanting to help people who are having issues relating to that, or people who are having addiction issues, or people who have health problems? That Pluto transit is going to be, it's going to be there for a couple years, right? For right now though, besides that, wow, and it's going to be really aspected because you have Jupiter in opposition. So, as a podcaster. Okay, cool. As Pluto is getting closer and closer to Saturn, because your Saturn is at a 3, sharing and talking about things that are more subconscious, hidden, esoteric, metaphysical, psychological. These are themes that I want you to stick with. These things should interest you. It can be things that are more taboo also. But I think that Pluto's getting close, and it's a good idea for you to be doing something that people can be listening to. And it's meant to open up the subconscious, or it's meant to get people thinking about, like what happens after death, or what happens behind the scenes, or, how do we work through things? I make music, my own jewelry brand. Okay, cool. I love jewelry for you right now with the North Node coming into your second house and Jupiter being there and there being eclipses and other things. That makes me feel like you're going to be hard at work in regards to designing and creating things. In particular, also because Aries deals with the head. You might notice you're doing more earrings. I wonder if you're going to do like headbands and things that you wear on your hair that might kind of sit right on the forehead, things that are like a little bit more whimsical. Aries also, you know, that Venus is much more like warrior-like. So it's not always going to be this like dainty feminine thing. It's like things people can wear that's going to bring out like that inner, you know, war goddess archetype. It might be about you learning more about soldering and working with different metals and being able to like really learn how to put things together in an appropriate way. Are you learning or taking classes or anything on like new techniques? Because Venus in Aries is in a square to the North and South node. So to me, it looks like this is something you must develop. This is a tool that you must develop in this lifetime. But hey, Jupiter in the North node being there throughout this next year makes me feel like you can make it, you can create it, you can invest in that, you can sell it. Think of things that people can also wear when they're in action, when they're moving. So like, I would think it'd be cool if you could make chains that they could wear like around their waist, or things that are going to be, stuff that's just going to be like more kind of not masculine, but things that you can wear to really kind of show the body, if that makes sense. I mean, you know, finally you're out of your Saturn return. So the question is what did you learn in the midst of all of that time by yourself? What woke up for you? What did you work through? What did you learn about all of that stuff? Because now you're going to start applying everything that you've been teaching yourself, learning, and kind of working on behind the scenes. Uranus is still making oppositions to your Pluto. So being that Uranus rules your chart, you know, you got some cool stuff going on. I feel like with Saturn square the midheaven, you're really feeling like you want to put yourself out there and you want to be seen. And I also feel like with these Uranus opposed Pluto, Jupiter in opposition, that's going to be setting up over the next year too. It's going to be really interesting. Like you're going to have the opportunity to kind of create a brand where you're like, here's what I sell, here's what I think, here's what I talk about. Like you could make it all come together. It may really start coming together in a much more fluid way closer to next spring. Right now, it's more like making the jewelry, developing the skills. I created industrial style spiritual jewelry. Cool. I'm in court dealing with kids and housing and that stuff. So court wins, look for when you have a retrograde in the 6th. There should be something that's getting sorted out end of June through August, right? So yeah, court stuff. I mean, that's kind of difficult because you do have the South Node and Jupiter in the 6th, and that's about like, you know, handling some of those issues that might require settlements or making concessions to another person. Making music is more going to be about Neptune, and being that you're going to see Jupiter and Uranus trine your Neptune this year and a little bit of next year. It's about diversifying and putting them on different social media or different platforms, because Jupiter and Uranus going into the 3rd house, like if there's a new social media platform, if there's a new streaming platform, if you want to experiment with like starting a YouTube or starting another channel, I would recommend doing that right after the retrograde in Taurus this spring. Like mid to the end of May going into June would be a good time to do it. Look at when maybe there's even some aspects between Jupiter and Uranus, right? And I think it would be cool because you might put stuff out there that's going to sound a little bit different, a little bit more futuristic. Diversifying the platforms that you're using is what I would recommend with Jupiter and Uranus in the 3rd. And definitely do the podcasting, because as Pluto's coming into contact with Saturn and the moon, you're really going to like the fact that you can do that and highlight a different side of your personality and talk a lot about what you're thinking about. But yeah, Jupiter in the North Node being in your 2nd house, there's opportunities for wealth this year, especially when the North Node comes into contact with your Venus. So that's even stronger in the fall. But I would really focus on building out the jewelry while you've got transits through the 2nd house, because that can really sustain. The 2nd house is about bringing in the resources that we need to keep us going. That can really sustain you, so you can go, okay, now I'm pivoting to build other things within my brand, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Tag me in some of your stuff on Instagram. I'd love to see what you got going on there. That's really exciting. Keep up with like the urban kind of industrial feel. That's so great for Venus and Aries. I love that. We've got Amy and then Lindy and Elizabeth. You can find it. It's Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astro. Just tag me and I'd love to see what you're making. Okay. So we've got Amy, and Amy was asking, will I get a forensic science job or any police-based career this year? Anything in career or finance? So I've got you here, Aquarius rising, and your sun is in Aries, your moon is in Aries. Hello. Well, this is really a great time for you with having a solar return that's coming up here. It's almost your birthday. And you're going to see that Jupiter is going to be in close proximity. So that seems to be a good indication, career evolution, and a lot in regards to making more money and getting a job. Jupiter rules your 10th house of career. Jupiter is also in a trine with your Pluto and your natal Jupiter. Because you've got Sag on your midheaven at 0, that's going to be more so police. That's going to be more so the legal or the law system. Not that you couldn't do some of like the autopsy stuff. I mean, you could, but let's see. You've got Mercury in Pisces, Saturn. I mean, just solving crimes and working with crimes in general. You say forensics, all that, those planets in the second house, you want to physically look and dig through things. But I get the impression that you may find that there is a job offer that comes right around the time of that eclipse that's coming. So when you see like the Sun and Jupiter come into conjunction, look around the 9th through the 11th of April. That may prompt something because you're going to see the moon go through there and create a fire trine where you get a job offer. You may also see something come through when Mars is in your 6th house and it's trining your midheaven around May 22nd on. Of course, forensics, right? You have Pluto in the 10th and it's right on your midheaven. So I like that, but I'm not really seeing anything like physically going through bodies. I know it sounds graphic, but that I'm not seeing. I could definitely see you doing and working with like a justice, affiliated system. Part of this also is you are coming into some of your Saturn transits, right? So you're going to have Saturn in conjunction to your Venus. That's going to be about whether or not you feel like you're getting paid what you need to get paid. You may take a job throughout this year where you're like, okay, at least I'm getting my foot in the door. And then what's going to happen when you get into your Saturn return next year, when you're having Saturn conjunct Saturn and Mercury, likely I think you're going to negotiate a higher salary. Another time to watch where things can get really interesting work-wise is when Venus goes retrograde in your 6th, because Venus is connecting to, workspaces and places. It's going to make a bunch of trines to your 10th house. So let's say, you get an offer, but you're not sure. There may be something else that comes in June going into July. It's also paving the way for some kind of work because Venus will retrograde in the 6th, which means you could be changing directions with your schedule, where you're working. Maybe you take on a much more pleasurable schedule. And then you're going to see planets that are moving into your 10th house later this year. And that can also be about a changing direction of jobs, but very busy at the end of the year, November, December, January, with all these planets moving through your 10th house in a retrograde. Here's how I see it, right? The 2nd house is like, okay, I'm going to get paid. The 6th house is like, okay, but could I be doing more? Could I have better experience? Could I work my way up? The 10th house is, okay, I've gotten to that point. Now I'm going to reassess how long do I want to stay here? Do I want to change departments? So April, June, July, and November, December. These are going to be the times where you're going to most likely see this happen. But specifically because Jupiter rules your career and it's coming in for a trine with all your planets in the 10th house, yes, you're going to get a paying job. I'm more looking at the opportunity for segueing and moving up within those positions, especially at the end of the year. So November and December. If you get into something you really like this year, like if you're working for a company or a position that you really like, stay with it, because I could see that you have an opportunity at the end of the year to have, to like not just get a raise, but get like a status change. And Pluto's going to be in conjunction to your natal Uranus for the next year or so in the 12th house. So working and doing research behind the scenes, working within private facilities, looking at crime, trying to put pieces together. It's a really good period of time for you. Like I can see the next 2 years is going to be when you're literally building all of your skills and coming into the bulk of your career. It may just take until Saturn gets into Aries and it's in your second house that then you're reassessing, okay, well now can I do more? Can I move up? But this is the year that you get the foot in the door. Yeah, I mean, if you have Pluto on your midheaven, you want to be working with Pluto related things. So you want to be trying to track down serial killers, or you want to be working at a funeral home, or you want to be, doing something that's fighting crime. And because Pluto is in the sign of Sagittarius, right? And it's ruled by Jupiter, and you have your natal Jupiter that is in conjunction, it's something in regards to working with sheriffs, cops, police, task force, whatever, and doing the forensic side of things. So yes, I do think that's a really good position for you. I can just tell that there's been a lot of frustration because nothing has come in over the last year or two. But that's all about to change with Jupiter in your second house and in conjunction to all of these planets. Like, it's not going to be a matter of if you get a job, it's do you take the first thing that comes along, and are you open to making changes in the summer and in the fall if you see an even better opportunity, right? But now it's about kind of getting your foot in the door and getting experience. But yeah, great for Pluto on the midheaven. You're going to see more permanent stuff when Saturn gets into Aries. So that's going to be right around 2025. When Saturn is trining your midheaven and it's trining Pluto, that looks like it's going to be more permanent around 2025. Okay? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Good luck. That's a lot of work. But that's such an interesting position. All that Pluto wants to dig deep. We've got Lindsay. You're welcome. Okay, so let's pull you up here. There we go. And I know, I apologize. I know that's not your name. That's your business name. General reading, Sheena. Thank you. Do you want to be more specific other than Pluto coming into conjunction with your sun? You guys got to ask me a question, otherwise I can go on and on and on forever. Probably the two big ones for you right now is Saturn coming into your ascendant sign ruler, your ascendant sign. So it's coming into contact with your ascendant. It won't hit till next year, but it's a period of getting ready to reassess where your life is going and setting up some expectations, boundaries, limitations, really focusing on your goals. You'll see a lot of that kind of unfolding within the next year, so closer to next year. It can feel kind of stagnant until Saturn sits on your ascendant, but Pluto is 1 degree away from your sun, okay? So this is about your daily routine, your health, your digestion. It can also be about changes with your career, changes with your mental health. Things are not going to be stagnant for very long. With Pluto on your sun and the node square, it's trying to get you to think about your routine, whether it's your work routine, your health routine, your fitness routine. It's trying to get you to make some of these changes, right? And jump into things. And then 2, you're going to see Jupiter come in, and Jupiter is also going to square your sun. So to me, it seems about changing your routine up, like literally visiting other places, shopping at other places, traveling to other places, kind of changing up your routine so you're creating more diversity, so that way you're more likely to connect. The sun rules your 6th house. So the sun is not just about health and work. The sun rules children, right? Leo. It's about romance. So if you're saying, I don't have any kids, I don't have any partner, it's trying to get you to say, okay, how passionate am I about making these things happen? And how can I bring more opportunity into my life? Equally, you're going to be in your Pluto square Pluto. When do I see change happening in regards to career? I mean, listen, all year. I mean, I know that's not really what you're asking for, but your Jupiter transit in your second, more resources, more opportunity, building on self-esteem, more purchasing and spending power. So that's really big. And then when the North Node comes into your second house, you might feel like you're working hard and developing new skills. Venus retrograde in your sixth, which is coming later this year. If you want to change job positions, if you want to change something about your health, your daily routine, if you want to get into a new hobby, if you want to be thinking about relationships, also, you might meet somebody through work. That may happen also June, July, August, especially with the trines to your 10th house, right? But to be honest with you, when Pluto comes into conjunction with your sun, that's a life-changing transit. So right now you're like, oh, I'm not seeing it, but it's coming. That can be about possibly moving to another country or trying to take a job in another country, which if you're going to do that, my guess is that it would be much more likely when Pluto is hitting your sun next year and Jupiter is coming into your fourth, like summer of 2024. Yeah, but Pluto conjunct your sun, I'm more looking at this like, are you going to find meaningful work? Are you taking care of your health? Is your mental health affecting, your physical health? And with Sun and Mercury in the 12th, you kind of hide out a little bit. So it's going to make you realize, oh, I have to make changes. I have to get out there and meet other people. I got to connect to other people in different places. I got to switch it up a little bit if I want to, Leo, fall in love, meet people, have children. And you still have some positive transits that are going to be, moving into your fourth and fifth house. So the next 2 or 3 years, you can do those things. It's very doable. But Pluto can bring crisis. So it's not just limited to you and potentially your career. It can be father figures. It can be just men in your life in general. So sometimes it's not as literal for you personally with the sun. It can be others, which can really stir up and make some big changes in your life, right? Especially because it's going to get close to your Mercury too. So that's definitely going to be about changing the way that you look at relationships and opening up to other people. And it may be beneficial for you to connect with people in other places. So it's giving you that space of the 12th house, that privacy, without having to jump wholeheartedly into relationships. And you might try meeting people in other locations. You do have Venus conjunct Saturn, and it's in the 10th. So Venus conjunct Saturn, love gets better as you get older. But Venus in the 10th, same thing. Something about changes in your career leading to relationship possibilities. So I could definitely see as Saturn's coming into a square, you're starting to think about, well, what do I want to be doing professionally? Where am I going? Thinking about those things will also make a huge shift in regards to your relationships as well. Big time. Watch for those eclipses. That's going to be taking place. You've got one in your second house next month, but I'm really thinking about the ones that are going to be in the fall because there's going to be a solar eclipse conjunct your moon in October. And then in the spring, there's going to be a solar eclipse conjunct your Mars. So it's going to be about money, resources, what you're making versus what you're getting. And you're going to start thinking about what you're investing yourself into, right? Time, money, resource-wise. But I would get ready for it's like you say, like, oh, nothing's happening. Like, I would not challenge the universe like that because Pluto on your sun is enough, but the nodal squares that are coming and the Jupiter square it can bring things suddenly and unexpectedly that prompt you to suddenly make changes in your life with relationships and also with your health. The sun at a 1 is definitely about your personal health as well. So the body, the heart, right, the nervous system, all that stuff you want to kind of keep an eye on. And you might notice that just you have some spidey senses that are kicking in. Really strong dreams, intuition, things of that nature, feeling really called to get involved in a cause. I have seen some people when Pluto crosses the sun in the 12th house where all of a sudden they get really into mysticism and esoteric and meditation, and they do things in regards to their career in relation to that. Circle back. I want to see what's happening in May with Pluto's conjunction and then the nodal square and Jupiter coming into Taurus. Because Jupiter is your chart ruler, it's going to prompt you either moving or traveling, or maybe thinking about learning another language. That can come up too, which might be helpful if you are trying to connect with people in another place. Hopefully that's helpful for you. It's so important. I have Pluto conjunct the sun natally. I know what that's like. That it's not easy, but it can be very rewarding. And I think for you, it's definitely going to open up a lot for your like you might do like some channeling or something with Pluto in conjunction to your sun and Mercury. So we've got Elizabeth. Elizabeth, did you pop back in? Hello, hello. Okay, Tiffany. You're welcome. Eliza. Let's see. Did I get your birth information? I'm not seeing it. For Elizabeth Niche. There it is. Now I see it. Oh yeah, I've got you here. Let's see. That was a Synastry. Let's see, where was that? Or was it? No, that wasn't for you. That was Lisa. Sorry, I'm trying to find your chart here. Give me 1 second. There we go. Is this it? Make this Placidus. And where was that, Elizabeth, that you were born? I'm sorry, I'm trying to scroll up. Eliza, got it. Let's see. Okay, there you are. So April 14th, 1987. And that was 9:09 p.m. Ottawa. Oops. Okay, there we go. Now I've got you. Okay, April 14th, 87 at 9:09 p.m. Just a general question for the month. Curious about Saturn going through my 4th house. Okay. Well, the good news is that you've had a little bit of like you've had this briefly for like the last year or so. I think it's a little different though. You know, being a Scorpio rising, having Saturn go through Pisces, at least it's going to be trining your moon, your Pluto, and your ascendant. So you're much more in tune with the harmony in regards to your emotions, your inner world, your private life. Now it's not squaring all of your stuff, okay? But still, Saturn through the 4th house. What comes up with that? Challenges revolving around home, mother, your physical living space, your roots, learning more about your family lineage. Being that Saturn is in the 4th, it does represent the lowest part of the chart. So it's in opposition to the midheaven. So there's a sense of going, where is my career going? Where is my life going? And Saturn's trying to get you to think about, focus on building the foundation right now. So in Pisces, I'm wondering, okay, you live in Tel Aviv. Are you thinking about whether or not you want to permanently relocate to a particular country, right? Do you feel like you want to go back home or do you want to stay where you are? You will think about this throughout these next couple years. Saturn won't leave your 4th house for another like 2 years or so. So until it's getting ready to go into Aries, it's still going to be in your 4th house. But for Scorpio risings, generally, you know, Saturn's going into your whole sign 5th. So it's Who or what do I love? What kind of a home am I creating? Do I want to have children? Have I found the person I want to spend my life with? What's going to make me happy? How can I be the most successful and creative? So I would say focus on the first few steps first, which is where do you want to live, right? Where are you going to be the happiest living? Do you like living where you're at, or do you want to go back home? I would start there. 2, I also feel like when Saturn is getting close to your Venus, which will start next year, but it's really going to be in 2025, that's going to be more about commitment, settling into a relationship, being with a person, and making plans for the future. So all of that's going to be built off of the backs of getting to a place that you like to live. Now, while Saturn is in a square with your Mars, there can be a sense of meeting people in other places, or there can be a sense of you going back and forth and not really being on the same page about where you want to live versus where other people want to live, right? So yeah, Saturn going through the 4th is not easy, but it's making much more positive, harmonious aspects than it has been in recent years. Saturn trine your moon is going to stabilize and get you thinking about where you want to live and help you like really process things emotionally. Saturn trine your Pluto is going to make you feel empowered and make you feel like you're coming to terms with some of the changes that you're making in your life. Saturn trine your ascendant is going to make you feel more stable and make you feel secure and at home. Until Saturn leaves your 4th house in about 2.5 years, you're doing all of the 4th house work. So if that means you have to deal with childhood issues, parenting issues, thinking about where you're living, trying to find a place that you could potentially buy, it's not a bad time to do all of this stuff. At the same time, you're also in your Jupiter transit the 5th house. So it's opening up relationships, romance, the possibility for having fun, expressing yourself, and then it's going to move into your 7th house. So believe it or not, this year is find where you want to live, stay open to love and relationships. After that point, what's going to happen is you're going to meet people who are going to help you figure out how to feel like you can build a much more solid home space. Saturn in the 4th is going to sextile Jupiter in the 10th. So it's going to open up the 10th house through relationships. So some of you might meet somebody who goes, I'll help you buy a house, or move in with me, or let's move away together, or, let's go and look at homes. Even though you're not looking for that, that's kind of the stuff that comes through your astrology, right? And it's all in preparation for your North Node return. North Node moving into the 5th house. You just had your Jupiter return. To me, it looks like you need more fun. You need more spontaneity. You need to have more creativity. There needs to be a sense of you actively going and doing things. So don't allow yourself to get too caught up in being stuck at home. That's the one bit of advice I would give you with Saturn in the 4th, and hiding out too much, because that can happen, especially when it's making trines to your Pluto moon. You have a Hades moon, so that means there is some hangups there in regards to the relationship with your mom, right? So whether that there is a feeling of there being some toxic emotional encounters or loss in regards to mom, or detachment or something, as Saturn's moving through the 4th, it's going to bring that up, but at least it's trining that out. So it can be a wonderful time to make amends, heal family issues, talk to therapists, work and connect with family who are going to make you feel secure, and really being that parent that you needed, that you feel like you didn't have the last time Saturn went through there, right? Because Pisces is a sad placement. Pisces is about loss, grief, letting go, like feeling alone. So with Saturn in a trine to your moon and your Pluto, coming to terms with some of these things. Okay, my parents are not here. What am I creating? What am I building? And it's about getting excited for what you're going to be building with your friends, with the family that you create, with partners that you have. So it's a bit of sweet and salty at the same time, but it's going to bring you a lot more stability. Saturn in the 4th taught me, I have it natally, when Saturn was going through there, it was horribly depressing, but I was constantly moving my kitchen around. I was like buying new furniture for my kitchen, like pulling stuff out, moving things around, because Saturn needs a task, right? And the 4th house can literally be about structures. So if you can't move things around quite frequently. Don't stay at home too much. Try to practice yoga. Try to welcome Saturn into your house, and be very cautious with who you allow into your space, because Saturn in the 4th is going to be symbolic not just of your home, but it's your heart, right? So you're more cautious with who you invite over, who you let into your home, and you're not just letting anybody in. And then I think as Saturn's coming into contact with Venus, you're going to be like, okay, I'm glad I held out, because it ended up being that somebody came in that met that level of needs that I have. So it's somebody who's going to meet or excel with your standards with relationships. in school full-time, changing careers. I mean, that's great. Saturn trine your moon and Pluto, it can help you do that. It's opening up your 9th house Lord. You'll see, once Saturn is on the other side of about 7 or 8 degrees and it's sextiling your 7th house, you're going to be like, oh, everything's opening up and I don't have to do it alone, right? But a lot of working through the grief and like mourning stuff right now. So sending you lots of good vibes, lots of salt baths with Saturn and Pisces. Salt baths are the name of the game. All right, we've got Tiffany and then Lisa. All right, so we've got Tiffany. You're welcome. All right, Tiffany was asking me a question. Let's see, where did she go? Anything coming for love, says the Scorpio rising. Scorpio rising, sun in Virgo, moon in Taurus. Okay. So basically Venus is going to rule your 7th house. You've had Neptune in opposition to Venus here for the last year or so. So there's been a lot of like, where is my person? Am I always just going to work my life away? When am I feeling like I'm going to connect with someone? You're coming out of that. That's the good news. Okay. So the fact that you're coming out of this Neptune Venus opposition, no more idealizing people, no more feeling lost, no more feeling like you have to go at things by yourself. You got a couple really great things happening for you. So even though you're a Scorpio rising, the eclipses, the 5th house transits that are taking place in Aries are happening for you. You're actually about to have your Jupiter return. So Jupiter moving through the 5th house may bring an abundance of dating, meeting people, you know, connecting, falling in love, really kind of hitting very strongly about mid-April all the way through July. Okay. When the North Node hits Jupiter, in a woman's chart, it can be about a prominent partner or a husband. So watching the North Node come into contact with your natal Jupiter transit right around the beginning of May is what I would be looking at. At the same time, then we're going to have Jupiter go into Taurus. So for a Scorpio rising, you're going to hear, oh, it's about partnerships. Maybe, I think you're going to meet somebody. I think you're going to have a lot of positive changes at work. I think you're going to be very busy. And I think that the big breakthroughs in regards to relationships will come when Uranus trines your Venus, which is going to be August of 2023, because Venus rules relationships. Uranus is sudden changes, unexpected shifts. It's going to trine Venus. You might meet somebody through work. That may not be what you want to hear, but because you got Venus in the 10th, because you got Venus in Virgo, because Venus rules your 7th, this might talk about meeting somebody after work, meeting somebody through work, something like that can happen. Even if you go out with your coworkers, right, you might meet someone. Uranus trine Venus is going to get really active in August. Then you're going to see it retrograde. And then the big breakout period for you in regards to relationships is going to be when Uranus enters into your 7th house. You might suddenly decide to enter into a relationship, get married, get engaged. You might end something. It's destabilizing in its nature. But what's interesting is that Jupiter will be there at the same time. So it seems to suggest, yes, I'm in love. There's this person. This relationship's going very quickly. And it's all trining your Venus. So too long didn't listen. Spring of 2024 is like the big, you know, like amazing time in regards to your relationships. I think that's when everything kind of cracks wide open and you're finally kind of telling people, here's what we're doing. Here is what we're planning on, especially because Jupiter can be about ceremonies. So I wonder if you're talking about getting engaged or getting married, especially because it's squaring your natal Juno. So it does seem like at the very least you're talking about it. The North Node is still moving through your 5th house. So the themes of feeling romanced and feeling in love and having a good time and all that stuff is very important. And then we are going to see the North Node start moving towards your 4th house, which may be about focusing more on your home, buying a place, having your own space, doing it maybe even with another person, because you're going to see Jupiter that's going to be sextiling. So a lot of like maybe playing house summer of 2024. Venus in Virgo is technically, you know, in a sign that it's not comfortable, right? Because it's in a mercurial sign, so it's about the mind. So being that the Sun and Venus are so close, there is this over fixation on relationships, commitment, being with somebody, having something. but that all squares your natal Saturn and Uranus. So there can be this oscillating back and forth between, I want the relationships and I want the public relationship. Oh no, but I want my freedom. So having Saturn and Uranus square your Venus means that what you want and ultimately what you aim for or what you're hoping to achieve, let me make this better sense. What you need in relationships and what you seek are two different things, right? So there's like what you love and like what you're attracted to, and then what's actually good for you. What's actually good for you with Venus and Virgo in the 10th is somebody who is going to be very committed, somebody who is going to be patient, somebody's going to be understanding, maybe they're going to be a little bit older than you, and very responsible. Because Venus is in a square to Saturn Uranus. So you want to have moments of splashing out, being independent, going and doing things, having your time. Like you need somebody who's very self-sufficient, who's going to give you your space and not make you feel like you're smothered. Because I think in your mind, you want that traditional commitment with Venus in the 10th, but you actually need a lot of space, if that makes sense. And Venus being under the beams of the sun also will kind of do that as well. I think that can represent a sense of maybe somebody being right in front of you, right, at work, and you never saw it. You never knew that they liked you, and you were like, what? So watch what happens in the spring, but more so even going into next year, that's when you're going to see more open up. But I think that with an eclipse on your Jupiter, love is very much on the horizon. But the fifth house is you got to go to concerts and parties and bars and sporting events. Like you got to go out there and do things, making it more likely that you're going to meet someone. So if people from work want to ask you to go out and do things, participate, because it's going to open up the likelihood of you meeting someone. Finally, no more Neptune oppose your Venus. That's really been the troublemaker these last few years, because it makes you feel like love is out of reach. Hopefully that's helpful for you. I've got Lisa. Okay, Lisa. All right, so you're welcome. Lisa, this was a Synastry. Do you have any comments? So I have your info December 3rd to 67, 11:15 a.m. And then the other person is December 29th, 75. You are a Cap rising with a Sun in Sag, and your moon is in Capricorn. And then we've got their placements on the outside. This is a bit sticky. Okay, so stay with me here. In a sense of transits, you have transiting Pluto on your ascendant, okay? And it's going to go back and forth, which means you are changing and transforming. There can be a sense of you becoming super hyper aware, sensitive, tapped in, but there can also be a sense of like, I need change and like, I want to burn things to the ground. It can be very uncomfortable with Pluto on the ascendant, especially at 29 degrees, because it's very psychic and you just know things, but you are changing. When a planet hits your ascendant like that, it's opposing your seventh. So it's going to change the relationship that you have with other people. Okay. You guys have some very interesting synastry. So they have Saturn on your seventh house cusp. That can be the glue that holds you guys together, but that can also be a feeling of somebody keeping you at arm's length. It depends. Saturn in Leo is not easy because it does deal with limiting romance. You also have, you guys have a Venus-Neptune conjunction. So it may feel like magic, like just pure magic in terms of the attraction and the desire and the fact that it feels like it's fate, but it's in Scorpio, so it can be secretive. And this feeling like, okay, is anybody going to kind of like talk about this? Like, are we going to acknowledge that there is this thing going on between us? You have a Sag sun, they have a Sag moon. So the sun moon combination I see a lot for long-term committed relationships, people who get on very well because you have that sense of the conscious and the subconscious in conjunction. So they work in harmony, they understand each other. Then we have their sun in Capricorn conjunct your moon. So you guys have this doubly. Mars trine Venus, Venus conjunct Neptune. I think the most challenging aspect that I can see in this chart is the fact that they have their Neptune conjunct your sun. So there's a sense of, I'm not getting clarity. Where is this going? What are we doing? What's happening here? And for all Sagittariuses, there's been a lot of question marks these last few months with Mars going retrograde in Gemini, saying like, where are my relationships going? Who is there for me? Like, is this going to move forward? You guys have excellent synastry, but my concern is with Pluto coming into a conjunction with your ascendant opposing their Pluto. There is this feeling of like, feelings or emotions bursting at the seams and like you needing change and wanting to break through that barrier of Saturn of being like just friends. Is it possible for there to be something more? Yeah, I like the Venus-Neptune connection. I would be really cautious with not allowing this person to lead you on or drag things out in any way, shape, or form, because I think that can happen. Unfortunately, with Neptune on your sun, there's a sense of them not giving you a lot of clarity and feeling like, okay, you know, like I feel for them, I'm willing to give to them. You might be more understanding with people like this who may not necessarily be ready. I think you could also see more open up in terms of your guys' relationship, especially around July, August, and September, because you're going to have a Venus retrograde there. It's going to be about whether or not it's, you know, go time in a relationship. It is going to be making squares to Uranus. So it's going to bring up, can we be friends? Can we be something more? I've seen people have excellent synastry, right? But at the end of the day, you guys have free will. I think the downside also is that this person's got both the sun and their Mercury in your 12th house. So the 12th house is like your blind spot. So in a way, you can't read them very well. You don't really know what direction things are going in. There is a sense of you being like, I can't get a solid read on this person. They don't really tell me anything. So it can be frustrating, and you may feel like you get more clarity in a 12th house way. Dream interpretations, getting readings, tapping in and, you know, like meditating and trying to talk to their higher self and being like, give me a sign, like, are you open to this or not? In very weird spiritual ways, you guys can connect. And if you don't allow yourself to do those things, or if you don't focus on trying to get clarity in a much more spiritual way, you're going to be like, this is confusing. There's something here, but nobody wants to acknowledge it. It's your blind spot. But you guys have really great astrology that supersedes that, right? Saturn on the descendant can be like, are you in or out? And I think with Pluto coming into opposition now, there's a sense of you really wanting to be like, hi, this is how I feel, right? They have Mars in opposition to Saturn, so there's not like a direct sense of them being an assertive, forthcoming person, right? Not that they're dishonest, but Mars in opposition to Neptune, they get lost. They're not sure what their direction is. And that's really important for, you know, a Capricorn, because Mars does rule their emotions and their intuition. This person also has, in terms of their ascendant, they're a Pisces rising. So Saturn's coming into connection with their ascendant. So they may feel like they need more space, right? And they may be a little bit more kind of isolated and not really kind of getting out and about with other people. Relationship wise for him, that's all going to be connecting to Virgo, and you happen to have your vertex right on his descendant. I would say I would give this until about July, August, and try to have a conversation with him about it. Let him sit with it and come back to you by the end of September and see if he's ready to go. Because I think Pluto on your ascendant, you're really itching for a change, and part of Pluto on your ascendant square the nodes is about you going, I'm the one who's going to make the change. I'm not waiting for you. I'm going to make the change, right? And it's about kind of empowering yourself, not coming off too intense, too strong, or too controlling, because there can be a sense of like almost being very intense with Pluto on your ascendant. And Pluto's coming into contact with your Mars, right? So you want what you want when you want it. And if you're not getting it, trust me when I tell you, you will be able to get it in other ways, but I would not hang around and wait. And I also feel like it's probably going to come to a point where you're going to be like, I don't know if I can be around this person all the time because I want this so much, or it's so clear, but he's just not acknowledging it, right? Because the big thing is whether or not he's acknowledging it. But your guys' astrology is great. Just Venus-Neptune can sometimes be like this connection that one person is very aware of and the other person is just like checked out, or they know, but they're kind of standoffish, and it's on your midheaven. So being in a relationship with this person, if that were to happen, you're not going to be okay with it being hidden. Let's put it that way. It's not going to be something where you're going to be dating behind the scenes. That will never bring you fulfillment with the Venus Neptune on the midheaven. But give him the opportunity in July and August, because that can be a good time to sit down and be like, what are we doing? Is this a thing or is this not a thing? But I think the other astrology placements really do supersede a lot of the challenging 12th house stuff and the Neptune stuff. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Give them the benefit of the doubt, because you're changing, you know? And like I said, it's more about you. It's less about other people. It's about you kind of empowering yourself and going after what you want. When you have a very strong moon transit, which you're going to, Jupiter is going to trine your moon, it is going to open up relationships for you big time. So you have a lot to look forward to. May, June, July, August. There will be relationship opportunities for sure. Hopefully that's helpful. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a longer one, but that's okay. If you guys like the stream, do me a favor before we get off, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate it. We're going to be back on Sunday. We'll be doing astro weather. We're going to talk about all the astrology for the week ahead. We've got horoscopes coming next week. If you guys like this and you want to see more readings, you can always check out my channel on Friday nights. We'll be back next week with tarot. You can also join my membership. So if you don't want to wait, you can always get in that level 3 position, support the channel, and get your monthly reading every single month. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you in just a couple of days over the weekend for Sunday's astro weather. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Friday night. You guys take care.